And we're live.
We're live. Good evening. Exciting times.
Nobody's on yet.
Nobody's on yet.
Might be a quiet night.
That's Well, that happens when you're punctual,
That's when you're on time,
right?
You don't keep them waiting 5 minutes in the
You got to
waiting
wait
room.
till 8:15. So
Yeah. Well, usually a lot of the crowd rolls in at like 9:45.
that's when we. Yeah, I know we should. We got to start at around 10. But
I kind of turned into a pumpkin right around 11, though. I'm a bit Cinderella, so
looking to shut her down, eh?
yeah, that's
Oh,
usually
yeah.
the case. Well, it says we got. Oh, there's Chad. Chad's on. Good
Chad's
evening.
on. I had done
Wonderful.
that.
You're gonna have to get him a loyalty card or
Exactly, a
something.
punch card, right? Send him a different. Send him. We should send him a. Might have to. Well, it's gonna circle around here. We're gonna have to double entry some people into the draws.
Yeah, like a
if the community doesn't grow anymore,
get a rerun.
because it's some. Well, I think we did one. It was just 50-50. There was only two names on the wheel.
That's right. Yeah.
Last time there
Who
a
was
few.
the last winner? It was
Leo.
Leo, wasn't
Leo,
it?
yeah. It's actually my cousin from Edmonton.
Yeah.
So
Oh, that's awesome.
I think he was interested in the whiskey glass. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure if he's much of a.
Robin's on. He
Much
was
of a
our winner the
drinker.
time before.
Yeah.
Good evening.
I was wondering too. So like Ontario Farmer won, and I sent him the glass, but I never heard back from
Never
the
heard
guy.
back. Yeah.
There's
That's too bad.
There's like 3 or 4 people that are like, did they even get their stuff? And
I sure hope so.
I left that whatever comment or whatever in one of the sections of the live stream winner video, and nobody got back to me. So I'm hoping everybody got all their stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't. I mean,
No,
there's no way to know.
I still got a road trip to Edson to give Robin his cup there. Chad's collecting pants, is it? Oh, he's collecting points. Oh, you can collect
Collecting
pants
points.
too.
Oh,
Hey,
I never got anything to Justin. Mark Mortensen. I don't know if he got it.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
if
there's a few in here. So if they chime in
they
tonight,
chime in, we should maybe give them a little bit of a reminder that
let everybody know.
send us their address and we'll ship it off to them.
Get it off to them. Yeah.
Yeah. So you been on a bit of a shopping trip here this evening, or this
I
week?
was. I went to.
Grab this here.
Gotta show people. I went to the liquor store on the south side
The
of
liquor
town.
locker. You can't really see that; it's too bright. But
So the last trip to
Sparks Brothers.
Edmonton that I had some time, I went to a couple of liquor stores and I was just blown away by the selection. You can imagine some of these boutique style.
Just
liquor
whiskey
stores.
for days, hey?
Amazing. So every time I go into Grand Prairie, which isn't all that often, I try to hit up a different one.
Yeah.
And I was actually getting a little bit discouraged. Like just there was nothing. There was nothing. Like a little bit of a shelf and then nothing. I even actually went to the one in Hythe, the co-op, and I was like, well, I wonder if they have any scotch. And they had one bottle.
One
It was
bottle.
$28 or
Yeah.
whatever. It was
Oh,
just-
you know it's good then. That's how you know it's
it was. I mean, it got
20
drank for sure, but it
a
was
bottle of Pine Sol.
it was not worth it. So, anyways, went to the liquor locker there,
Sparks Brothers Liquor Locker,
and
79th Avenue, Grand Prairie.
right away. So I was actually on my way over to gymnastics. There is where we were headed, and I stopped.
I didn't know you were a gymnast.
I am, yeah, I'm quite something else. But anyways, I seen this. I used to stop at this liquor store actually when I was going south of town to work.
Oh,
I
okay.
could stop there and get.
Oh, so it's been established. It's not a new one. It's been
not
there a
really
while.
new. It's been there for a while. I don't know if it was always under this name, but they had like a whole wall of scotch, and there was like a couple $2,500 bottles, some $500 bottles, then like a ton of $200 bottles, and then your $50 to $80 bottles, which is basically where scotch. That's where the most of it lies, in that $50 to $100 range.
Yeah,
lots right around that 100, and then as you get pretty much if you get over $150 a bottle, you're actually starting to get elevated for our area for sure. The options aren't. I mean, we've looked at some of them ourselves here, and they go like 100,000 pounds.
Yeah,
for a bottle of scotch.
Crazy. Yeah, like 65-year-old bottles of whiskey, right? But
for our area and our geographic region, if you're around that $150 bottle, that's pretty much the extent of what you're going to get. Yeah. Anything further than that is like a custom order. So, anyways, that led me to the Dalmore.
Maybe you heard that name before.
The Dalmore lineup on that, and there was I think there was 6, and we already have 2.
6 of these or 6 different?
6 different Dalmores.
Wow.
There was those 2 were there. So we have the 12-year already. We have the cigar malt already. This is the 15-year. There was that King Alexander one there. That's a $580
the third,
bottle of scotch, and then there was 2 or 3 more. So I couldn't I got 2 bottles. I got that Glenmorangie bottle. That was actually on sale. It was $30 off. So I took that $30 and I reinvested it into the Dalmore, and I'm very, very excited to try that.
Reinvested.
Right? Well, I couldn't pass up the savings. I could not pass up the savings on that box. So I was like, yeah, okay, well, that's money in the bank. That's like free money.
Yeah.
So we'll just turn that right around, and we'll get.
I like your logic.
It's tremendous.
Yeah.
You have to. It's like going into the casino when you go into the liquor store. You whatever money's in your pocket, you just when you open the door and get in there, you start at zero. That way, when you leave, you haven't lost anything.
You didn't have it. Yeah, that money doesn't exist.
Right, it doesn't exist.
World.
The minute you walk in there, you're just like, all right, well, if I walk out of here with anything, then I've won that much money.
That's how those guys. I broke even. I broke even. Yeah, no, you lost $300.
Walk in with $100, leave with $5. How'd you do tonight? I won $5. That's how you handle the Scotch.
That's critical
business.
Right there.
So we can talk like that because I know our spouses don't watch this. So, but anyways, I'm excited. I've waited to open this box.
Like half your life, it feels.
I was like way too excited when I seen that whole Scotch thing. I was blowing up Stan's phone right away. I was like, you have to come here and look at all this stuff.
Night you texted me, you're like you were hangry looking for a chocolate bar or something.
Man,
like, I want to try it so bad.
I do.
Yeah.
And the bottles.
Look at that. It's
like
so
just
rich.
Art. Absolute art.
Oh, just caramel too, ain't it?
I was very. That's one of the things I was curious to know.
Coffee.
That the first Dalmore we opened was quite a bit lighter than that. So.
It was lighter, but it was almost reddish, eh?
It was.
Yeah.
And
that's more.
So I guess it's an extra
copper, I guess.
Extra 3 years in the cask.
Yeah.
The other cool thing.
What is that by? I guess
some color change.
Some color change. Well, I guess a little bit of flavor profile too. Add a little more octane.
And then the other cool thing that showed up over the holidays is a couple of books. So this is a Scotch single malt Scotch 7th edition book, and in it is actually pretty cool. It has all the Scotches plus a little bit of a history on Scotches. So instead of doing a synopsis on this whiskey, I was going to just get it right out of this book. So color, fresh copper. On the nose, it's generous, sweet, toffee, medium sherry, ripe oranges. Body, it's medium and firm, lush malt.
Firm.
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
I'll get there someday. When I'm ready to pony up to that $3,000 bottle of Scotch, then I'm gonna know what all this means.
Firm, unlike your wallet afterwards.
No. You
just imagine you
take
roll in there.
You take all your Christmas money and you walk in there, and then you pretend you didn't bring any money with you.
Just go in there with your credit card and walk out, and it'll just be all flaccid and yeah.
So it's a lush malt and a drier, and we're gingery nuttiness. And on the palate, sherry and Christmas spices, which I think the Dalmore was also Christmas cake
kind of
and sherry.
Thing. Yeah.
So, and then to finish, it says quite long and nutty with a final note of vanilla. So it sounds actually quite pleasant, but Stan and I have said this quite a bit doing these lives, that all of this stuff.
It's all kind of in the eye of the beholder, right? Like
how it manifests throughout the evening. Yeah. I don't know. Lots of times it just smells like a squirrel's nest and tastes like
the flavor profile, especially with the whiskey. The flavor profile can often be mirrored, but I don't get some of the tasting notes that others get. I mean, that's really individual to your palate, right?
No, and even so, there was the first part of this book is kind of, well, it goes all over, but it was, I forget the guy's name that wrote it, and he even admits, and he says, just because I didn't like it doesn't mean that you won't like it.
Yeah.
Just because it's cheap, it doesn't mean it's not worth drinking.
That's right.
Just because it's not from Scotland doesn't mean that it's not a really good Scotch. Really good Can't be whiskey. Called Scotch, but it is still a really good Scotch. Or like you say, that's geographically protected, so it can't be called Scotch. But it's it's a really, and he said a lot of drinks. It's a rising market in Japan. Of course, in North America, we're trying all our things in bourbons and all these other things, and a lot of them are rivaling these Scotches. Of course, I'm pretty sure a Scotsman would punch you in the nose if he said that. But
yeah, I mean, there's always going to be some snobtoffery in whatever industry, right? So,
absolutely.
Yeah, which is the same thing with cigars as well, right? So
you betcha.
Yeah. So who else we got on? Tamborough Station's on. Good evening. Well, yeah, I guess so. To accompany the Scotch, what's the Scotch book called?
It's just called the Single Malt Scotch
The Single
7th
Malt
edition.
7th edition. So to accompany that, you picked up the Cigar Companion as well, which is really, it's just a beautiful book, and goes into a lot of, like, the first third of the book is all about the history of tobacco, cigars, cigar making, the factories, the whole Cuban Revolution, and then from there, the modern cigar industry, and it gets into same thing, specific brands of cigars and how they're made, the different what do they call that? Vitolas, I think they call them, the different
Vitolas.
the sizes, and then so pretty cool book. Easier read, I think, than the Scotch book, just because there's so many pictures. But
That's my kind of book.
yeah, so the cigars we're having this evening are not in the Cigar Companion. This is an AJ Fernandez San Latano the Bull. Here's one for you. And so this is a 5-inch by 54 ring gauge, full-bodied box press cigar. And the factory where these are made are actually overseen directly by AJ Fernandez himself, which I thought was pretty cool. So what we should be getting with this is, like I said, full body. So it's got lots of flavor. It's going to have hints of oak wood, espresso coffee, leather-bound books. The good stuff. Right?
Mhm.
So
Absolutely.
and double banded. Artwork wasn't covered up.
It wasn't, eh?
Yeah, it was actually on the exterior of the cellophane when I purchased it. So Cedar Gems, which we frequent quite often, only had 2 of these, and I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. So, well, let's just have them. So we're
Must
gonna
be
have
fairly
them,
popular.
have them this evening. I think they're just harder to come by.
Okay.
Yeah. So had a quick look. Cigarsnob.com rated these as a 92.
Oh, wow.
So they're right uptown. And they're a new cigar. They're a recreation of some of the pre-Cuban Revolution tobacco blends. Is why AJ Fernandez tried to build this one. So you won't see it out there as though it's gained historical prevalence like many other cigars. It's a new one, but those that try it say it's one of the best cigars they've ever had. So I'm excited.
Well, it smells good. At mint. I get quite a bit of mint.
Like chocolate mint.
Yep.
And a
Which
little
is gonna be interesting.
and a little
because-
hint of behind the seat. For sure there's some
Well,
behind the
that's
seat.
in there for sure.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
So
It'll be interesting because we find that the ones that are almost with the most like revolting smell are the best ones, and we've had a few that smelled quite good. That you could definitely take it or leave it. So this is going to be somewhere in the middle, I would assume, but this smell quite good.
You care to try the
I'm going to use that. Yeah, those
30-06 Springfield?
you end up taking quite a bit out of a box press cigar if you try to cut it.
Oh, that's right uptown. I don't want to light this just yet because I do want to try the. I don't want to take away from
You
the.
want to try the Scotch unaffected?
Yeah. I don't want to muddy up the palate, so to speak. Right.
I hear you.
Yeah. And for discussion this evening, I think the folks that join us regularly probably already know, but if anybody that isn't a frequent flyer doesn't know what we're talking about, we're going to be talking about how social programming is funded in Canada. What's wow?
It's just a lot of air right off the bat.
Oh,
so good.
yeah.
That might be a quick burner. So, well, I'm going to unwrap this bad boy. Maybe.
Do you knife?
I think I can get it.
You carry a knife?
No, I don't.
You don't, eh?
No, I sure don't. I had actually started carrying a lighter again this winter, and I only can have like one thing in my pocket. So that's
yeah. I usually always have a knife with me, just cause. You never know. Might be set upon by cougars.
well, that definitely doesn't smell as good as the other one.
No?
Nope. It's more of a nail polish remover type.
Oh,
Are you ready
no,
for a splash? Do you like it?
that's that's straight Santa Claus. That one. Look how dark that is.
It's.
That's straight diesel fuel. Very impressive.
I'm really excited, but I don't want to be disappointed, so I'm a bit nervous. Excellent.
Yeah. Well, before I have a drink, do you know what today is?
March 3rd.
March 3rd. March 3rd is my old man's birthday.
Oh,
So, here's happy birthday. to
happy
the old man.
birthday! And cheers.
Cheers. Very woody, I find. It sits on the tongue kind of like a Chardonnay wine, like a wine, you know what I mean? Like a white wine.
I do, and
Yeah.
I get that as well. Might be a bit early to tell, but I'm not as impressed as I thought I was going to be. And I don't know I don't know why.
Well, let it settle in. I mean, it's gonna.
Well, I thought it would be like I remember that 12-year Dalmore just being really good.
Yeah, it was honestly like fruit juice. Like,
And this
it was
is
very,
good.
very, very fruity, right?
But
this is not bad. I actually I like it. I think you gotta let the palate settle in, let the cigar do what the cigar does. Because even some of the other ones we've had, it's like that first sip is just like, whew. But this isn't like that. It's not like, it's very smooth, right?
there are tasting notes on the box as well: orange marmalade, cinnamon, nutmeg
yeah.
for aroma. On the
Have you ever had marmalade
I have.
with the peel or without the peel?
I'm not too sure.
Did it have chunks in it?
It's just an awful thing to me, like an awful texture. Maybe it did have chunks. It's just an awful. I don't know why it exists.
Well, you're not wrong. So growing up in England, I mean, so we didn't have a lot, but we had marmalade. Marmalade is fucking terrible. Take the only piece of the orange that you can't possibly eat, you grind it up into a jam, and then you put it on toast, which was perfectly fine without it. So I hated marmalade growing up. And then I remember when we first moved out here, just being so crushingly homesick that I would eat things that I didn't even enjoy simply to remind me of home. And we were living in the holiday trailer. We hadn't even built this yet. We were just living here in this wide open field, and I'm making toast and marmalade, just reliving my childhood, right? Fucking time of my life.
Oh man, it's amazing stuff like that continues to exist, and you just wonder, it wasn't a good idea at its inception. How did it become a staple? And now that it's packaged and put on every diner table, and it's always there.
It's always there. I even think, like, have you ever been to like the foreign foods aisle? They have this thing called Ribena in England. It's like a fruit juice concentrate, but it's blackcurrant. And if you've ever eaten a blackcurrant, like God put that on this earth to spite you, right? Like, it's not a good fruit. On a good day, it's not a good fruit. And then if you take it and you condense it and you put it in a bottle,
it's even worse.
It's even worse, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So,
it's
anyways,
unfortunate.
Fun and games. So, shall we?
Yeah, I think so. I'm gonna say, did they have a smoke time on this?
I did not find one, but if I'm guessing, I'm going to say an hour and a half.
So you might be fairly rapid.
It's got a really good draw, but the humidity's been very, very well behaved in the humidor here the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, you've been you said, a while back there, you were sort of struggling. You had to add quite a bit to it.
Well, I've been coming in every single day and checking the humidity. And yeah, when we had it really, really cold there for a while, it was almost a daily thing that I was having to add more of the glycol into the humidifier, right?
Good Lord, that smells good.
Not quite lit here. I feel like the comments didn't do anything, and then now like 100 of them just came in all.
I noticed that too.
all
It
at
was
once.
just bang.
What happened here?
That is a good smoke. Like, wow.
Okay, Chad's head to GP tomorrow, but his booze shopping will be at Costco. That's actually a really good place to go. You get smoking deal,
It is.
right? No matter what you're looking for. Justin's on. Hey boys, how's it going? It's going fantastic. Yeah.
Justin also hasn't got his cup yet.
Chad likes marmalade. That's why it's on the table. Yeah, you know what?
It's just for Chad. Everywhere you go, if you
even
see
though
marmalade,
it's
in
even
case
though
Chad shows up.
it's terrible, I actually would just for nostalgia's sake go and have some, right? And Justin's smoking a black cherry cigar. I got a guy right now in Arizona who owes me one.
Oh yeah.
So he's going to bring back some cigars from the States. So we'll see what comes of that. Yeah, that's really good.
Even on the retro hill, you get no like aggressive.
It doesn't feel like it's burning your nose hairs
No,
out.
it doesn't.
Hmm.
Yeah. That's incredible. This might be the shortest.
It's only 5
cigar
inches
that we've ever smoked.
Well, no, it's certainly not, because remember when we started downstairs in front of the tractor when we were just like dirty jeans and hoodies and ball caps,
those were tiny little stogies, though.
and those
Is
were
that what
just
you're
like the
talking
little
about?
cigarillos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but for actually like an actual cigar.
But for the full size cigar, the smallest we've had so far is a 4.5.
Okay.
So they're
There's
not
been a
far
few.
off, but the ring gauge is up there for sure. So
Yeah, that's good.
that's really good.
I can
yeah.
see why they would say that. Now, how does that
Yeah.
affect the taste of the scotch?
I think it blends really well. I really do.
You know, even when we started, we're like, what's some cool things we can do? Well, let's smoke cigars and drink scotch. I didn't realize that's actually not a very intelligent pairing as far as things
No.
go. I thought it was.
Cigars go better with coffee.
They do, right? That's why, I mean, Cuba's just full of coffee bars.
Yeah.
Cigars.
But what goes with scotch?
I guess, I don't know. A fireplace?
I think it's mostly like smoked meats and things. Like I
Yeah.
see a lot of that on Pinterest. I
Do you?
search through Pinterest, and there's always like somebody will have they'll either have a picture of a glass of scotch and a firearm, or it'll be some raw meat and a glass of scotch. So
Yeah, I don't actually know. I guess I didn't really do a whole bunch of looking into it, but it really doesn't go with anything. I mean, you're not going to pour a glass of scotch and sit down for dinner. Mix it with food. Like,
I don't think that was ever historically really done. I mean, if you look back to some of the previous generation, you'd have desk whiskey, right?
Mhm.
That was always a thing. So mid afternoon, or maybe when you get home before the meal, you would have a glass, and then after the meal, if you retire to the den, kind of thing, you might have a glass.
what was I say? Like, it
I don't
doesn't
think
seem
it's
to go
really
with anything.
It's
It
not
goes,
a mealtime thing.
goes with a fireplace.
It's really just it's a standalone, right? It's got some independence. So
But not anymore. Now it's synonymous with scotch or with cigars.
we're trend setting.
Mm-hmm.
What do we got here?
A few more people on. There's 7 and only three leaving comments. So there must be 4
Yeah,
people not.
I don't have my reading
Participating.
glasses on, so you got to tell me what this says. So
Where are you looking at?
I can't get cigars from the States from my website. Or I can
I have to
get my buddy
to grab them.
grab them. Yeah, same thing. I've looked at a couple of different options for getting cigars out of the States, and there's some people that want to do some clandestine things, and Border Patrol's pretty good at their job, and You know, if you think you're getting out of paying duty, then you're probably not gonna. So by the time it gets across the border, you're not really saving any money, and
No.
all you really have is another pair of dirty mitts handling your cigars. So I'd rather, you know, if somebody's going on a holiday or something like that, bring me back something cool. So yeah, they're dry, but still good. Yeah. Well, if you get a humidor or even a Tupperware container, a Pelican case, something like that, chuck a Bovita pack in there for a week. You can rehydrate them if they're not overly matured, right?
Like I say, there must be 4 people not in the chat, and if you are one of these 4 people and you're actually new here by chance,
Yeah, come in.
we
drop us a
have
comment.
after every live, we're going to go back through the chat and we're going to find out who was participating, and then we enter all those names in a draw.
Yeah, it's
for
a team sport.
Smoke and Oak glass, either a whiskey glass. We have a few of these left. We got some coffee cups with the Smoke and Oak logo, and there was a couple of hoodies too. So
yeah,
there's pretty cool stuff actually.
Yeah, it's right uptown actually. So
and it adds quite a bit to it if people are participating.
My first band wants to slide right off, so I'm gonna let it so that it's not sliding around in my fingers.
Interesting. I think mine might have went out.
Yeah.
So anyways, for the evening's topic, we're going to. I don't know why I put it on there as on the poll. I guess maybe I.
Well, I think there was one viewer that was asking about the ER. I think was that what inspired it.
Yeah, that, and I mean we were getting getting close to 2023's provincial budget. On the news every day I watch, they're talking about need for more affordable housing, homeless shelters, certainly in the capital in Edmonton, and really nationwide. Of course, when you experience temperatures in the -40s, it's kind of devastating to think about homelessness and tent cities and things like that. So.
Yeah, it's not great. Well, even you just have to go to Grand Prairie.
It's very unfortunate.
Where I work, you can look out the window, and it's just like summertime. I was like, oh, is there a festival going on out there?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just tarps and tents, and it's just everywhere. But it doesn't. Of course, summer doesn't last very long, right?
No, it doesn't.
And then it's like, ooh, that does not look like a good time.
Then, we are like my daughter's now a little over 4 weeks old, so that was fairly fresh. We had to do a couple extra trips to the city involving some specialists. So you really realize how fortunate you are, and certainly with complaints towards the healthcare system in Alberta, and of course there is some, and even I had some. Sure. Undeniable that childcare is like top notch. Like. With all 3 of our kids, I can't think of it getting any better.
Yeah, if you're having a kid in Canada, is probably the place to come. Anywhere in the world, Canada is probably the place to come.
It's all taken care of, and like with the day my daughter was born, within 15 minutes, there was like 3 or 4 specialists, a ton of nurses, NICU nurses. There were so many people in that room. And I stepped back, I got out of the way because I'm at absolutely no help. And I was thinking, like, I wonder what this costs. There's like 20 highly educated experts number in this brand new operating room in this brand new hospital, and they're all working in unison to get this newborn baby whatever she needs. They had this big rolling bassinet with just all sorts of trinkets on it, and I was just like, wow, what does this cost, and how would you ever pay for this situation?
Well, could you imagine being in a privatized healthcare system, and you come out of there and you get a letter in the mail 6 weeks later,
right? $1 million
out of the States to have a kid, if you don't have insurance.
Right. And we, fortunately for us, there was nothing wrong. This was all, and that's the crazy thing. This was all preventative and just in case, right? Proactive, right?
Yeah.
And I was thinking, like, this is really amazing that they're doing all of this just because there was certain red flags throughout the end of the pregnancy. and they're they're
Just to
really
be sure,
making sure this is going to go the right way. And so 2 nights in the NICU, and then we brought her home, plus those 2 trips to Edmonton to see a specialist.
And things are well.
Everything is good, and yeah, you get what the bill was like. Our Alberta Health bill was like $36 for parking.
Yeah. And often I've complained about that. I don't think you should park at the hospital. I really don't. Like,
You should pay or you shouldn't park there.
You shouldn't pay. You shouldn't pay because you're not there because it's a tourist attraction. You're there because you have bigger fish to fry than putting toonies in the parking meter.
And I agree. And I mean, I think the taxpayer already built the parking stall.
Yeah,
I don't.
like it's
so,
paid for. It's paid for. It's
that's-
just that infrastructure doesn't require a ton of maintenance because it's all covered. It's not like it needs snow removal or every once in a while it probably needs some lines painted. But I think it's kind of criminal to charge people for parking.
You're right. You're right. I mean,
I remember when Charlotte was born, I got a parking ticket there because my ticket stub expired at 6:45, and I come out at like an hour and 20 minutes later, and I bought a new 24-hour thing, and of course there's shit sitting on the windshield. I'm just like, whatever, I'll just deal with it later. And I thought, okay, I bought a 24-hour ticket, and I followed up by buying a 24-hour ticket. Like, there's no malice or like intent to try and cheat the system here. Like, and I'm gonna leave with like 7 hours worth of parking already paid for. But no, pay the $35. I'm not getting out of it.
that's funny.
Yeah, ludicrous.
They
Who else we got on here? New there's a shop on 99th Street, Edmonton. Good selection. Oh, it's Randy.
Randy.
Have a cigar in the store. Oh, if you could have a cigar in the store, wouldn't that be something? That's one thing. So we're going to the UK.
Did he just say you can do that in Grand Prairie?
No, Edmonton.
Oh. And who do you think this is?
It's Randy.
It's Randy. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I see that there.
Yeah. That would be so. We're going to the UK later this year, and of course, I'm not going to be able to do this because I'm going with the in-laws. I'm going with my niece and my wife and our 2 kids. So I'm not going to be able to do this. But I would love to be able to go to Davidoff of London, to go to their cigar shop and just sit there and have a cigar with the Sahakians, right? Eddie and Edward Sahakian. Like they're pretty much.
And why can't you?
The cigar aficionados. Well, I mean, if I dress like this, I might be able to. But
You got to bust in there.
I have a feeling that I don't know. I don't know if I have the what do you call that? The push to be able to do that.
The clout, yeah.
The clout, yeah.
You just go in there and you just say, "Hey, I'm Stan from Canada."
Well, yeah, and I think about that. Like, but I wonder if it's like because I watch him on YouTube, right? I see it all the time. There's a guy named Kirby Allison. He's an American fellow. He has a menswear, fine menswear kind of online outlet, and it's inspired by British fashion, right? So he goes to London all the time, goes to Savile Row, gets custom shoes or custom suits made, all bespoke, right? And while he's there, he'll obviously stop in and have a cigar with the Sahakians, cool. Right? It's just the coolest thing ever. But yeah, I just wonder, is like, well, I wonder if this is like Pawn Stars, if you just showed up at the store one day and then none of those guys are actually there, there's just a couple of grease balls behind the counter kind of thing. So, but I guess unless you show up, how would you ever know, right?
Yeah, that's true. Interesting.
But I did buy a new suit, so you never know. Maybe they'll let me in the door. So.
It's worth a try. I gotta say, like, I keep glancing down here now because to see the comments, but anybody that's in here would have noticed all the other live streams. I seemed like 8 inches shorter than Stan, and it was actually by his design. He had shortened one leg,
cut the legs off the chair,
and made it look that way. So when the
camera tilted,
when I was going back through the last live to look for the names to enter into the draw, I was actually starting to get kind of disappointed in myself and depressed,
feeling dejected
that I was just a short.
You're a short king,
fat just like compared to Stan, but because it's he's slightly taller than me,
'Cause
but
I'm up-
roughly the same build.
Chest out, shoulders back.
But then I found out that it was actually by design. He did that all on purpose. So we got that sorted out. The whole thing is proper now. Even the everything is
Yeah, you should be able to see that.
everything everything
of
is
the,
straight.
What is that? The Queen Anne's Revenge?
The boat.
Yeah.
That's the HMS Metcalf now.
Is that what that is?
I
Okay.
don't know.
Yeah.
It's a battleship.
But it's square with the frame. The
It's
top of the
straight.
frame is square. So there's no more
Oh, I can see. I look
artificial vertical
I'm just
challenge.
a little bit shorter now. I'm not, because I was thinking for a while there, like if you
Yeah.
saw it an inch off the legs of these chairs or what. The
Well, I
end game
offered to
was.
get you a cushion.
And then he said I can get you a booster seat, and that was horribly offensive. But life is good now. Life is good now.
Oh,
So-
yeah, you're just so offended. That's funny. Oh no, that's the name of the store. Well, Have a Cigar is the name of the store. Oh well, isn't that something?
Well, Have a Cigar is the store. It is hard to see these.
Yeah. I really should have worn my reading glasses. I just ever seen the magazine Unfiltered? I have not. I generally don't.
12-year Glenlivet.
I haven't spent any time in the magazine section since I worked on the rigs. They were probably a different kind of
I
magazine
was
back in the
reminiscing too when I was making my my.
I see. So how long ago was that picture on your thumbnail from YouTube? Which
when-
go check out Millionaire Farmer. You'll see his latest video. You'll see in the thumbnail is a picture of him looking quite dapper.
Man, I was in shape. I used to run. I used to run.
Just
I used to
ripped,
run
eh?
5 miles 5 times a day, or five times a week.
5 times a week,
Yeah.
times a day. Holy hell! Yeah.
Five. Like the tool push that I had down in the States, he was like a marathoner, and I mean, down in the States, what do you do, right? I mean, it was nice all the time. I was living in an apartment,
You're
so
there to work,
you
right?
get off, and I mean, it's just like beautiful in Oklahoma. So what do? We take up running, and I would run. Yeah, I was in good shape. Now I'm just not.
Yeah.
But that would have been in 2009 maybe.
Oh, so not
2010?
that terribly long ago.
No, I only started on the rigs in 2006. So
Okay. Yeah. I want to say, like, when I
3 years. Yeah, it must have been 9. It was 2009 or 10.
when I was working Derek, I because the face thing has always affected me, but I was probably like in the best condition of my life.
Oh,
Absolutely.
And you
ripped,
are,
right?
yeah. If you're any sort of a Derek hand at all, you
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
If
Throwing
you're-
one-handers constantly.
Because that picture, I was working on a 5,000 meter triple.
Yeah.
And like everyone was confused, and this was a mind over matter thing. This wasn't strength, but I'd jack back Mon-Els without a
Yeah.
rope because
Oh.
it took no fit, and no one could understand it. I worked with a bunch of newbies. I don't know, they're not the best rig hands. They were just a bunch of rig hands, and they we had winches up there.
Yeah.
But of course, I don't know, nothing ever worked. I don't know why it didn't work, but so they were always confused at how you could actually manipulate it.
Body
Like,
mechanics.
I don't know what a Mon-El would weigh. Like a stand of Mon-Els on a triple, like 15-inch.
Crazy
It's
heavy.
Ridiculous. I
Yeah.
mean, like two and your loader can't lift it.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
Yeah.
And you could just, if you could get and there was no top drive there either, but you could get the swing right, and you could manipulate it with no body strength at all.
Just playing the game.
And
of physics.
you would come down, and people would just be like, because you looked like nothing. I was
Yeah.
never a big person. I was just
Yeah.
in shape. And they would just
They just want to high five you, but they're
just
too,
so
they're too scared.
confused, eh? I worked with a guy named Mike.
Yeah.
He was from Ontario. He said he had a job once in the automotive factory, just putting stickers on the frames. But he played the harmonica, so every time I'd climb the derrick, he'd start the Rocky song going, eh?
Yeah.
And then he just, that was a good time, eh? Like, holy man, that was a good time. Rigging. Oh,
Fuck the story, man. Like, you work with a guy that worked at a car factory putting stickers on, but he played the harmonica and ended up
oh
on
man,
the rig.
Mike.
Like,
He was in
like-
Desert Storm on a U.S. aircraft carrier.
like stuff you just can't even make that
Mike.
stuff up, eh?
Like, I forget his last name.
Yeah,
Mike.
that's funny. Sit him up on a phone book. If we could get a phone book. Maybe a
If Stan breaks out a phone book, I'm going to beat him with
Sears catalog or the
That's
Christmas wish book.
it. That's what's going to happen if he comes launching on here with it. I could sit on the Scotch book, I guess.
Oh, Randy says, Unfiltered is a publication out of England, covers Scotch, whiskey, and the cigar industry. Well,
Oh,
now I'm intrigued.
Absolutely. Are you getting robbed or what?
I don't think so. Well, the greater man lives next door. He's probably over here.
He's dirt biking or something.
He's got he's got a young fellow that works for him. That because I'm 40 and I hear that and I'm like, it just rubs me the wrong way. But then I think like 20 years ago I was that cocksucker too. Like just
you have to let it play out, man.
Everywhere, right? You're going down a hill. Why are you accelerating? But
that's getting better. That last smell and swig was like there's a lot of caramel coming out. So it's
maturing,
redeeming itself.
Maturing, yeah.
I was a bit nervous because I mean that's it's like a $200 bottle of Scotch. It was 100.
It was that much, eh? Yeah.
It was $190, I think. 190. But like I say, it wasn't. When
you could hear him. You could hear him going. It's going down the road there. Freaking blue bottles on or whatever.
I never did that.
No.
I never ever.
I had a lot of diesel trucks, so I straight piped a lot of diesel trucks. I wanted to hear that thing whistle, like just spooling up, eh?
So
yeah.
That's so dumb.
Like when I hit the accelerator, I remember actually being at what is it now? It was the Golden Inn, and is it the Quality Inn now on the west side of Grand Prairie, the big tall hotel?
Oh yeah.
Anyways, there was a fellow there in like a little white shit box or whatever, and I had an F-250 twin turbo diesel. Did evil things to that diesel engine. Anyways, he's just like, because of course dual stacks coming out of the box too, right? And he's just looking at it like, you want to go? Because of course he knows he can't, but he just wants to see what's going to happen, right? So I'm like, all right, put it in 4-wheel drive, lock it, spin all 4 tires, and just launch that truck. There's pure diesel fuel coming out of the stacks, right? And his windshield wipers, you see him wipe, and the rainbow from the cloud of diesel smoke that hit his windshield. And he pulls up his side like 7 minutes later at the next traffic light because he can't see shit, right? And he's just like, that was awesome. But now, of course, you just be like, this guy's an idiot, right? So, yeah. Chad's Kenworth is straight pipe, can hear it for miles. Yeah, see, well, you know what? A big truck like that's cool though, right?
No, it isn't.
The kids love it. And
No,
just like, yeah,
it's not
like,
cool.
Whoop, whoop.
I run earplugs like almost all day long, even when I'm hauling grain. And then we just have a regular W900, so it's quite quiet. But I don't turn the radio on. I can't stand noise. I can't stand it at all. I cannot stand noise.
I had so many roughnecks back in the day. We'd just be like, can you just buy a fucking exhaust for this truck? Because I'm going deaf just going home. Because it'd just be like constantly on the way. Because it sounds cool, right? Every time you corner, you shift gears, anything, you just got to.
I gotta tell this dude here that he's gonna hop on here. He's
coming on board.
I told him to hop on, and I got to bring up my because we will eventually get to discussing the financing social programs in Canada.
Yeah, we really haven't done that.
But I had done that short this morning, and I said like these kind of topics, they end up with some pretty interesting tangents, and it's amazing where you can go from newborn, pregnancy, delivery to rig handing.
Well, I mean, we gotta touch on welfare and all kind, emergency services and social systems and all that. We got to get into that eventually, right?
I don't know how to share this. I gotta share this thing here. Maybe I can.
You need to share the link.
I do, yeah. And then we'll get to it.
Put the cigar band in the old whiskey bottle. I don't know if folks at home that maybe don't know the story about this. I found this in a beaver dam on a quarter of land that my father-in-law bought. So I don't know if one of the previous owners back in the 40s had been down there drinking whiskey and
Hide-
shooting beavers, or
hiding out from the wife.
probably hiding from the wife. But I thought, well, what can we do with this kind of old cool bottle? And it's what is it? HH or something, wasn't it? No, Hiram Walker and Sons. That's what it was. So it's just a cool thing to put all the cigar bands in there, and then when it's full one day, it'll just become a display item on the shelf.
There you go.
Give it a
Share.
little mix up. Well, here we go.
Let's do this quick, and then I'm going to. And I'm going to get right back.
But I did look that up today. So, how much money do you think that the differing levels of government within Canada spend on social programs?
Well, I wouldn't think it would be all that much because Alberta, I think, was around 300 and some million, I believe.
Yeah.
So like,
So,
I guess if you're going to do the whole nation, Alberta, there's 5 million, 4.5
but is
million
that
people.
is that the provincial government's number? or is
I
that-
think it was. I'll bring it up here
Yeah.
again in a second. But so nationally, I don't know, like 300 million in Alberta, probably like $14 billion, maybe.
because the only number I could really find on the internet that was universally applied to the whole country was for the federal, provincial, and municipal, all three layers of government,
Okay.
in terms of how much they spend on social programming. And it was like $798.5 billion. That's like
An absurd amount
a
of money.
crazy. Like how can you even comprehend how many zeros are there? Like just an incomprehensible number. But then, okay, well, 61% of that, so like 3/5, right, is spent on like social security, old age pension,
Okay.
welfare, education, and healthcare, right? So basically the things to sustain life and teach, right? That's pretty much it, right? But that I couldn't believe that the huge portion that goes towards like what's called social security initiatives, which encompasses everything from like the old age pension to just I don't have a job and I'm collecting a check kind of thing, right? So, and I don't know where you really wanted to go with this topic, but I mean, to me, I get there's some programs in there that I 100% see value in, like the education system. Everybody should have a right to an education. I don't necessarily agree with how some of the curriculum is developed, where some of that curriculum is progressing, especially since it's taxpayer funded and it's funded by the state. And I think there's a lot of political and personal ideologies that are infiltrating their way into the education system now. That doesn't really sit well with me. Like,
Yeah.
as a coworker of mine the other day and I shouldn't share this as personal information, so I won't mention names or nothing, but he goes to see a healthcare provider and he's wearing a shirt that has a very mild political statement on it, right? It says, "Don't speak moistly on me," right? You all remember the thing from a couple of years ago, right? Don't speak moistly on people. Became a whole meme. He got a t-shirt. Anyways, shows up, has his appointment, and then is asked afterwards to find another healthcare provider because it doesn't align with their
Oh, wow.
political ideologies. And I thought, man, like that's really hypocritical, and I don't even know if that's legal to do that, right? So
It's there's a lot of interesting things happen. You're to see you sort of hum and haw about it, and
yeah.
I'm not. But yeah, I get where you're going with the education thing. There's quite a bit of. To me, it should be fairly simple, where it's just a basic education, right?
Well, I mean, so there was a story out of, I think it was Ontario. It was a Catholic school out of, I'm going to say it was Ontario, even if it wasn't Ontario. Fact check me, I don't care. The premise of the story is that there was a 16-year-old boy in school. They were having a discussion on gender, and the boy said, it is Catholic school, of course, right? So this should be very well defined. and says that there's only two genders, and is challenged. There's of course students within that school that aren't in agreement with that.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes up to the principal, and the student is suspended, and then the student is what do they call that when they kick you out for good?
Expelled.
And it turns into a legal battle. And it's like, why are we even like? I get that there's certain things that the school system is responsible for, having open conversations with and preparing our children for the real world. But there's some conversations that need to happen at the parental level in the home.
Mm-hmm.
And especially some of these things about sexuality and gender within society
Mm-hmm.
with minors, that 100% needs to happen in the home, and shouldn't be attached to whether or not a student is entitled to attend a school or not, right? So what do we miss here? No use having a Kenworth if you can't jake it. Yeah. Need to touch on the folks, the 12 kids dragging in the federal child money. I'm having to compete for land against them, and they're using my tax dollars. I'm taking all programs and housing. Holy man, this is escalating quickly. I don't have a problem with a lot of programs. It's the waste by bureaucrats running them that piss me off. Okay, so bureaucrats. So my wife works for Alberta Health Services in EMS, and for like every 5 people, there's a manager that exists, right? So I get span of control in an emergency situation. You can't have more than the ultimate span of control is like 3 to 5 people. If you have less than 3 people, your position shouldn't exist. If you have more than 5 people, you're probably getting overwhelmed. That's in an emergent situation, not in a day-to-day. Like, I know they're emergency response, but that's not the point.
Yeah.
We're not talking like fucking earthquakes in Turkey or something like that.
Casualties.
We're talking about just day-to-day activity, right? So yeah, for every 5 people, there's a layer of management that occurs, and so that organization is so middle heavy that it can barely even function, right? And then we can't even put an extra ambulance on the road. And if we could find the funding for put an ambulance on the road, we can't actually even pay the staff to run it. We just can't, right? Because there's so many layers of people in between that are using up all these budget dollars, right?
That's amazing. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And that's funny. And I got thinking about that quite a bit when my daughter was being born, and through this whole process. There's a tremendous amount of anger towards AHS, and they say it's top heavy, and there's funds aren't being allocated properly. And I remember seeing this, and maybe you've seen it too. It's a clip of a Canadian doctor. I think she's in Congress or something in the United States. She's down there for some odd reason, and they said, "Well, what do you think about people from Canada going to Florida for elective surgeries and things like that?" And she said, "Well, maybe we're just not allocating our people properly." And I saw that. So they were saying, and I don't claim to have the answers here. I don't, but I did see that how this could have got away, because they were saying, I think there's 3 floors in the Grand Prairie Hospital. And the second floor, I guess, was understaffed and overwhelmed. The second night, excuse me, when I left, there was like 9 nurses on the 3rd floor sitting there with their feet up. Not knocking the nurses, but I just thought, like, I wonder why. Like, have we become so specialized that nurses working on the maternity floor can't go down onto the 2nd floor, when there was like, I don't know, I walked by a whole ton of empty rooms up there.
It's not like the wartime nurses, right, where they would have to just emergency and they just do everything, right?
And that's exactly it. I remember a teacher I had in junior high school, and he was explaining that the difference between the Canadian and the American military is the American military would need, like, say, 7 people to operate a tank, and the Canadian military would need like 3, because they all knew what to do. They all knew everybody's job, and they all knew how to
functional, right?
And in the States, they were like, one guy for the gun, one guy for the steering, one guy for the
we see that lots with the fire service too, right? Like, so we have somebody like our local fire department. Somebody comes in, and we train them to run the pump. We teach them to drive the truck. We teach them to hold the nozzle. We teach them to put on SCBA and search for victims. We teach them to go on the roof. Teach them how to cut holes. Teach them how to smash windows. because they need to know that, because at any given time we don't know who's going to be able to get off work and come to a call and go put out this fire. Whereas you go down to the States and you'll train for your entire life to be a driver. That's all you do is you drive the truck, or all you do is you hold the nozzle, or all you do is you're the engineer, you're the pump operator, or all you do is you're the guy that raises the ladder up and moves things. And that, how restrictive is that?
Well, and I was wondering, so I get it. And so, for the neonatal unit, the NICU there, you probably need 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever the number may be of experts in that field.
Well, I will say, like the NICU, and of course you were recently in there. We were in there a year ago. When you step outside and there's just a cubicle right there and a workstation, and the nurse is there, and you have one nurse, one patient, that's the place to have it.
And even as far as it goes, with management now, I get it that you probably need to have some specialized, lead nurses up there that they don't leave, really, no matter what's happening.
Yeah.
That they have to be there. They know how the whole thing operates.
For sure.
But then the rest of them, right? I mean, there has to be some that can, the whole system would benefit from them taking a day or two away and relieving pressure in a different area of the medical system. And I mean, it's I guess it might come off as sounding critical or whatever, and it's not meant to be. It's just something that I observed, and I was thinking, like,
sure,
holy cow, like, it's pretty dead up here. Even the food tray, there was like 4 trays on it. So the floor wasn't full of women who were giving birth or had just given birth. There was really nobody up there. Yeah, I mean, it was dead quiet. And then you hear that, well, on the one floor below, it's flat out and everybody's busy. I thought, like, seems strange. And it's funny because I really believe this, that's the private sector doesn't operate like that. And I mean, I only worked on the rigs before this, but like there was no, things didn't get chaotic because you were shorthanded. You just dealt with it.
You dealt with it. You allocate the resources where they need to go.
If somebody was, for whatever reason, not there, that they were arrested at Walmart the night before, they were drunk the night before, whatever reason, there was some animosity, maybe there was some laughter about the whole thing, but the day went on, and the work got done.
Yeah.
And I mean, so why does that not happen when the government's involved? So there's a tremendous amount of waste. It's always at the top. I had seen, actually, just before I came over here, apparently now, and I don't know if this is true or not, but it was interesting enough, they're making provisions now. There's $75,000 per federal employee for gender reassignment surgery, gender affirmation.
Gender affirmation.
Yeah. So
per employee.
Per employee. And of course there was a bunch of screenshots and clips of this.
So what organization is this?
This is the federal government of Canada. So if you work at the post office, you work at the
hundreds of thousands of employees.
I expect they're the largest employer in the country.
Yeah.
So that's a bit of money that probably
just in case they got that sitting there. So God forbid we walk onto any one of our First Nations settlements and
get some clean drinking water,
get some water for them
housing,
and maybe build a few houses. And
it is true. Truly shocking.
Pipe in some natural gas.
Because I had one number here about, and quite a bit of this, I didn't know where this was going to go either. And I spent quite a bit of time just on healthcare. So it says in 2022, we spent about $38 billion on healthcare in Alberta, which is roughly $8,545 per person.
So that's really interesting. So you mentioned the food trays, right? So you look at the Grand Prairie Hospital, they don't actually have there's no cafeteria there, right? All of that's outsourced. So like, what you got to wonder, and I'm going to find this out. Of course, I can't do it now, but I'm going to find this out. Like, where does that come from? Because
I was told once it come from Calgary, I believe. Like that's where their headquarters.
They ship it up, and yeah.
So like I expect there must be a kitchen in the hospital where they warm all this stuff up.
No, they couldn't. Well, there might be a kitchen. It might be just a bank of microwaves. I don't know, but
yeah, like I assume it's probably similar to an airplane.
But there was never
the shit comes out warm. But how it got warm is a mystery.
Yeah, there's a nuclear reactor.
Snapped the package and fired it in the bag or whatever, right?
Just MRUs, right? But yeah, like there's no place to get a meal in the hospital.
Yeah, well, you had said that, and I mean, I went into it knowing, and I was like, yeah, whatever. But the other thing is, all three of our kids now, we eat arguably the best food on the planet, right? So it's
For sure.
our local food. We get we get lamb from here. We get from what we don't have, we can get from our neighbors.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're not going to find you might find as good, but you're really not going to find better. I truly do believe that. So when you're then like Corey even told him as soon as she got there, she said, "Don't put me down for the meal plan. I'm not going to eat that shit."
Yeah.
Nope. Like nobody
give
should
me
eat that
give
shit.
me the European holiday package.
They
Here,
brought
I'll
it.
get my own
They brought it
pack.
all every time they brought it up.
Yeah.
I mean, and we brought her food every day. I mean, she's fortunate enough to have her parents close, my parents close, myself close, her sister's close, friends of hers are close.
Yeah.
And you're just not going to eat that shit. And I don't know why they don't understand that.
But it's it's absolutely terrible food. Like it's worth like I've flown on a lot of planes and had some really terrible food. And the hospital food is like undeniably the worst. Like it's not even food. Like
No.
I don't even know how. Like it's like Soylent Green. Like it's
Right,
just
you have to try to make it that bad. And actually,
there's a lot of effort and dollars go into making it that awful. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's almost like the Costco guy said, right? You wouldn't believe how much money goes into making this place look like a warehouse.
Yeah.
Right. And I believe that with the food. Like you wouldn't believe how much work they spend trying to make this awful. And my mom was actually telling me that, and I didn't look into it. I mean, she said out east somewhere there was a hospital where they ran a program, I think, for 30 days, and they made the doctors eat the food. And I think they made it. She said they made it
They
something.
probably
like,
all got clinical depression.
She said they didn't make the week, and they were like, "Yeah, we gotta fix this. We gotta fix this." And that's the other thing. So why now is the laundry farmed out? Like all of this stuff is farmed out, and the quality. There's no. I'm not. It's funny to try to figure out where you align politically, and like libertarians have a real good place where we eliminate the government altogether.
Pretty much altogether.
I don't think that would be the best either. But in like when we start to privatize everything and go like neoliberal and true capitalist or whatever, and we without any checks and balances, you see just this absolute runaway.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no restraint on it, right?
I don't know if you've seen this guy on TikTok. He's got this what the hell is he called? He's got an electric Kenworth or something. He's in the logging business.
Yes, Edison Motors.
Edison Motors. So did you see the one where he was talking about that chunk of the Coca-Cola, I believe there's a company headquartered in Sweden.
Yeah.
They're supposed to look after this. So all the money, and he said that they just do a shitty job. So where's the accountability?
So all of that money leaves the economy, right? And it never comes back.
And he said the job isn't done properly.
Yeah.
So like where, for the folks that are like, oh, we can't have the government involved at all. Well, then who is going to hold these people accountable? Like what you actually need is a government that's willing to say, in these certain areas, privatization will be better. However, we're going to there's going to be some controls put on this, right?
Yeah.
You're not just going to send up the blandest egg that we don't even know how you got it to be like this, right? We're going to do things differently.
Oh man, I was in a training course here the other day, and the one day we had an early start. So of course the hotel has a conference room. They brought breakfast out, put it in the steam trays. It was reconstituted eggs.
Yum.
And I just couldn't. Like it's just the worst. Like I don't even know how we could even feed that to a human being. I wouldn't feed that to an animal. Just awful. Absolutely awful.
A bad egg is very hard to stomach. That was one of the things coming out of camp on the drilling rigs that I hated eggs. I wouldn't eat them. I hated them. And then when I started to get farm fresh eggs, I would eat eggs every day. I didn't realize how
much of a difference that makes.
Difference there could be from something that comes in a cardboard box and is poured out and scrambled.
Powdered in a box, like
unbelievable.
Just add boiling water and heat it up in a microwave.
See, and that's the thing too, right? I mean, I remember being young, like really little, and we'd always go visit my dad. My dad was a tool pusher on the drilling rigs my whole entire life.
Yeah.
So we'd go visit him because he was always gone. And their camp food through the 90s was incredible. And the cooks were incredible people. And the camp attendants were incredible people. By the time I got to the drilling rigs in 2006, by 2007, 8, 9, 10.
Just
The food was absolutely deplorable. None of the
Awful.
desserts were made. Really, none of the food was made. The odd camp we would hit up, actually one
Yeah.
up in Pelican, was not too bad. That guy would actually cook desserts and things like that. But that was about 1 in a million. And actually, when I was working up north of Hudson Hole,
and
I
the
actually
worst
got,
kind of people working there too. Like,
I got offered a job working Derrick. I went up there working motors, and they said if you were willing to cook, like on nights, if you're willing to go back an hour early and cook, you can actually we'll hire you on. You can stay here and work Derrick,
just double dip.
right? You know, and I was just like, yeah, okay. I mean, whatever. We were building the rig in Nisku anyways, and I was excited to go back and work on that. But it was amazing how, I guess what I'm saying, how important some of this stuff is.
Yeah.
And I think certainly with our municipal, provincial, federal governments, that all of this stuff, I guess maybe they don't realize how important it is to the public, which is really a shame, because I don't understand how these people continually get elected. Like, like it seems like the right people don't run because I guess they're busy.
There's a lot of people that don't get elected that find themselves in positions because they're just willing to put their name forward, right?
Yeah,
You know,
that's very true.
they're not the peak of intelligence. They're not really even necessarily have a desire to help people. I think there's just a lot of people that want to have positional authority and be the guy, be the man. They're not in it for the right reasons. And because some of the people that maybe do have good reasons or good intentions are busy actually doing things that matter, making a difference, they don't run. There's a lot of folks that get they just acclamation, right? They just get in, right? Or the competitions. Sometimes, maybe you've got a guy that's the heart's not in the right place, but then it's the next guy down is even worse, right? Because the government's so bloody corrupt that it's almost like, well, who's the devil you can live with, right?
Yeah, that is very true.
It's like, what's the best shitty compromise I can make here? We see that lots at federal politics, right?
I know
more with municipal politics. There's a lot of acclamation in municipal politics. There's a lot of people that should run that don't have time to run that could probably do a really good job. There's a lot of people that have time to run that do run that don't give two fucks about what they're just there to collect their check at the end of the month.
But doesn't that really seem to be the case? Like, I'd be curious to know like what the few that are watching think. To me, that is 100% the case. And I was actually having that discussion with a guy the other day, and I said, like, when it comes to volunteering, there's 3 types of people. There's the people that want to volunteer enough time to get their name in the newspaper and sit at the chair somewhere. There's a big group of people that are willing to volunteer and do the work, and they actually just don't want to even be noticed. They just
they don't want no credit. They don't want to make
Then there's
decisions.
a whole bunch of people that don't even want to volunteer.
Yeah.
They just they don't want the service anyways. They for whatever the case may be, if it was whatever. If they will use a curling club, for example.
Yeah.
Right? They don't want to curl. They don't give a shit if it exists. They want to be left alone.
Got nothing to interest.
Then there's a big handful of people that are willing to put the ice in and keep it clean and go down for if it ever gets rented out and set up the chairs and on and on. And then there's the people that they want to go, they want to make decisions, bother everybody, inconvenience everybody, and then when the newspaper comes to town and says, "Oh, there's an event at the curling club," they want to be in the picture.
They want to get a picture taken and get all the credit, right?
And I think that translates right into politics, right? So because they were saying, well, what would you like to see? And I said, I would love to start to see some like 35, 40-year-old, 45-year-old people run.
Yeah.
And he said, well, why don't you think they do? I said, they all have young families. They're all in the prime of their working life.
Yeah.
And the weird thing about it is you don't know very many politicians really at any level that haven't done very, very well for themselves.
Yeah.
But when you're looking in and you're like, well, whatever, they only make, if they get elected, they're going to make 50, 60,000 a year. That's quite a bit less than I'm making in my blue collar job or whatever. So I can't make that sacrifice.
But they don't. Like the best among them make that 50, 60,000 a year. But the worst amongst them always seem to come out with a very broad portfolio, and their net worth seems to just grow exponentially somehow magically while they're in public office.
It's truly amazing.
So
how much and the other thing I like it came out the other day, TikTok's going to be banned from federal phone, right?
Oh, really?
And I was thinking to myself,
why is that? Because of waste of time, or is it because of?
Well, I'm full for it. Like TikTok is an absolute cesspool of just terrible shit. Shouldn't be on any company for federal phone ever. It shouldn't even be on anybody's phone. mean, I realize we both have it, but it's quite
Yeah,
a
I'm
it's,
pretty much TikTok famous now.
well, you are. You've hit
Careful-
it. You've hit it
careful.
fairly big here a few times. I did one I thought was pretty funny, and it got this dead air.
Oh, really?
And then I did one about an antler and this bam.
The
50,000
$60
views.
a pound for
Yeah.
the antlers. Yeah, just leave some grain in the bucket
Right,
and
49,000 views in like 2 days.
become an antler farmer.
And then I laughed so hard when I made it, and yeah, like 400 views. So I don't understand the algorithm. I don't understand what people are looking for on there. I don't understand it at all. But back to my removing it from phones. I was thinking, like, why do these people even have, like, why are we paying for their phones? Right. So I had this conversation with my wife, and she's like, well, I mean, if you, RCMP have them and stuff like that for work. And I was like, yeah. So
Yeah.
I sort of got split, but I was thinking, like, I had a phone when I worked on the rigs. Nobody paid. The rig company didn't pay for that. I paid for it. Right? Like, there's a lot of jobs, mostly blue collar jobs. Mechanics, they need their own tools. Electricians need their own. Like, a lot of people need their own stuff. So why the fuck don't these people have their own phones? Well, then people might call them. Then fucking turn it off at 5:00. And then we'll see if you get reelected. And if you don't,
or just give them a flip phone, right? So
I guess
somebody phones or somebody texts. You can phone or you can text. You can communicate.
But this whole well, I need it for work. You know what? A lot of people need a lot of stuff for work. I needed Dunlops. I needed coveralls. I needed wetsuits. I needed hard hats. I needed Green Kings. Needed safety glasses. Yeah, okay. Some of the coveralls were provided, and then there was some sort of an allowance, which never was totally fucking disproportionately weighted.
Sure.
Like, how did the driller and the tool push get the same allowance as the poor fucking roughneck who basically needed 2 pairs a day, and the driller needed 1 pair a year,
week or whatever.
Jesus Christ, especially if you're drilling on a cyber chair rig.
Right? Oh yeah, you're inside.
When I drilled in the States, that's what I had.
Yeah.
Like, I was inside, and I was thinking, like, I even had mentioned that. I said, like, this is fucking nuts, man.
Well, why does that guy get a glove allowance? He's got a joystick and he's sitting there in the air conditioning.
We weren't even allowed to wear gloves because it took away from the dexterity of the work.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I'll never forget that as long as I live. The drillers couldn't wear them because,
God forbid, they hit the wrong button.
Right? Couldn't touch the PLC properly because they needed the skin contact. Anyways, and so you see this all over, and I don't even know where I sit, because sometimes, like I say, when I was talking to my wife, and she raised some pretty good points about why certain public servants would need phones. And I thought, okay, I don't get it though. Use your own phone, right? And if you're a really good one and you answer people's calls, and you're most likely going to get reelected. And if you don't answer their calls, well, you might get reelected. Probably not, but
probably not. Yeah.
But don't give me this. Wow, I need it for my job. I mean, I needed one to drill as well, and for roughneck because office had to phone you and tell you to go to work.
Well, I like my job, for instance. I probably take 40 phone calls a day for work related, right? So, and I make 2 phone calls a day for personal use. But so in certain cases, maybe it's somewhat justified. But I think definitely with a lot of things like Facebook or any social media platform or a work related phone, is probably like, is that really a good use of?
Well, did you see that lady in Congress in the United States going hard after Twitter because they shadow banned her or whatever, and she claimed that was silencing her voice from the American public? Kind of a valid argument. However, I think just like Twitter doesn't owe you anything.
But they don't owe you anything. Like it's a private corporation, and Sacha Baron Cohen said it, right? Like, freedom of speech is not freedom of reach, right? So you can say whatever you want, and look at that, ashes everywhere.
I thought they didn't fall off. Just destroyed your computer. Hopefully that's a government funded computer.
That's not a taxpayer funded computer, but yeah. What did we miss for comments while we're down here? You spent millions on studies in the Grey Nuns Hospital. Say it was wore out. Yeah, we all knew that. The same is the case with the Beaver Lodge Hospital, right? They built that in the 60s. How many times we've toured politicians through there, and they all nod their head and they look at the asbestos, and they look over there and they look at the black mold, and they look over there at what was previously a maternity ward. It's all just covered in plastic now because it's a biohazard, right? And so tell you, it wouldn't wait for 5 years for a knee replacement. I'd pay for that in the States for the best doc I could find. Yeah, and we see that lots of folks are leaving. They're going to Mexico. They're going to Turkey. They're going to Germany. They're going to overseas to get the care, and of course it costs them quite a few bucks. But I mean, what's your quality of life worth, right? Like,
Absolutely, and
You
that's
can't fucking walk. Like,
that's one thing I was wondering, and I was hoping to do a little bit of research on that as well. Is why? How do you have such extremes? Like what I would consider arguably some of the best medical treatment on the planet when it comes to maternity. However, you need a knee replacement in your 50s, and it's just a total disaster.
well, the knee replacement
Like a
thing
total
it's a
disaster.
real controversy because sometimes they don't want to do it because it's you're not quite worn out, and if we do it now, well then there's a good chance you're going to outlive that knee replacement and need a second knee replacement. So we're going to wait. And then there's, okay, well then if you wait and you're kind of too old for this surgery and
My
Fuck
my
me.
mom went through that. They said you're too young.
yeah,
I mean, and I think my dad said, well, like
you're too young for a wheelchair. How about that?
She wants to travel. Like, when is it time to do it? When she's 95?
Yeah. Like what's
Like,
what's the
why
golden
don't we
minute
do
here?
it now? And then she can travel.
Sure.
It's
Well, even if it's not just travel, like even if it's just be able to live, have a normal life.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just shameful, right?
So, like I say, how do we get such discrepancy from something like I said, where you would argue that this is probably the best treatment you can have to the worst, like and total lack of understanding. Like nobody understands why this is happening, why they can't get their hand surgeries, why they can't get their hip surgeries, their back surgeries. But
yeah, shameful. And then look at Tweedledee. He's said to be worth 380 million now. I'm not even sure what he's if that's an accurate number or not. But I mean, I'm certain that for sure, definitely a lot of those high profile politicians, we all know what their salaries are. It's public knowledge.
It is, and it's way too much.
It's not that easy, not that hard to do the math on how many years they've been in office and how many years of salary they've acquired. So where does all the rest of this money come from?
Right? And it's. I suppose if you look at the last 2 years, it's probably not too much.
It's what do they call that? Fee for time kind of thing, that whole lobbyist thing, right? Like they go to these big dinners or whatever, and it's $7,000 a plate or something like that, and just to be able to rub shoulders with them, right? You're buying you're buying politics, right?
And that's the other thing that I guess that kind of drives you up the wall a little bit when you start to look at these tremendous salaries and pensions and numbers. There's no explanation if you were to ask them what good did you do, right? I mean, a lot of them have voted on bills that they didn't read.
Yeah,
they really their accomplishments rest comfortably on an eyelash after a lifetime in politics.
For sure they do.
The one thing that really interested me, I believe it was, I almost want to say he had like the CFO of Toronto was his title or something. It's something like that.
Like the city of Toronto.
Yeah. So, and he was getting a ton of flack because he went to this conference, this week-long conference. I believe it was in California, maybe Hollywood, something like that. And he stayed at this hotel that was whatever, $800 a night. And they were giving this guy all of this flack. And I'll have to find the article again and try to get all this right. But basically he said, look, I couldn't stay at the Super 8. Like I had to stay where these people were. And he had the numbers. Yeah. He said, I brought something like $1 trillion worth of investment to the city of Toronto.
Yeah.
So, and I was thinking, like, this man actually answered all of the questions the reporter asked him about all the flack that the constituents had towards this massive expense.
And good for him for being.
And I was thinking, like, everyone could probably get on board with this.
Yeah.
Like, he answered all the questions. He had numbers. He said, look, this is the situation that it was. I couldn't stay 3 hours away and get up at 4 a.m. to be there by 7 to, shower in the bathroom.
Sure.
You're like, it's crazy. And I thought, like, if any of these other people would come out and say, like, yeah, well, we're actually doing great things.
Well, there was that whole thing with, like, during the Queen's funeral, right? Because dipshit had that room that was $6,000 a night or whatever. Mm-hmm. And of course there was questions. Of course there's going to be questions because that's just like a crazy number, right? and can't justify it. No, I get, okay, well, maybe you don't want him to stay at the Travelodge on the M25, like, and just be there with the commoners because there's a security risk. He's a leader of the country. Mm-hmm. For sure, it makes sense that there's an additional expense, but justify it.
Absolutely.
Right? Why do you need to say not only at the most expensive hotel in London, but in the most expensive room? You're certainly not the guest of honor by any means.
And that's unfortunately what we see across the whole political atmosphere in Canada is no questions asked or answered ever.
No questions answered. Lots of questions asked, nothing answered.
And really, and
Just-
it's getting frustrating really from
circles, right? Constantly.
from both sides, all three sides, all four sides, however you want to slice it. That they're doing a very poor job of answering questions if they answer them at all. And I don't even believe they're answering very many of them accurately. And they know
Well,
that.
no, there's always a redirect, right? There's never really a let's not answer the question. Let's just give you, we'll answer the question, but it'll be a 2-minute runaround
Mhm.
and circle back and never actually come touch on the matter at hand, right?
No, so I don't know what
So
the
there's no
speaks-
accountability.
the Speaker of the House, he makes a fairly decent wage as well. And I've watched a few of their sittings, and I just think like this is amazing. You should be the laughing stock, and most likely they are the laughing stock because you're supposed to be this new world democratic young country that has everything figured out, and it's just an embarrassing grade 3 classroom.
Well,
You said this, you said that. I
Yeah.
didn't. And I was
Yeah.
thinking, like, all of these people, I think they make around $180,000 a year. That's what that buys you, Canada.
Well,
It's a bunch of people
a
saying,
bunch of idiots.
"No, that's you. You did it." I mean,
Yeah, it's opposite, and that's they don't look at what's the purpose of the opposition party?
to hold the
It's to hold
Party
the other
accountable?
party accountable, right? Not to just fight them on every single thing,
Mhm.
for the sake of fighting them.
and that's one thing too that I think would be that would probably turn politics on their head is if a member of the opposition could ever once stand up and say, "You know what? That's a good idea.
That actually makes sense. Yeah,
Everybody, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
We'll just vote. That's
Yeah.
going to be good for the country."
yeah. If we did a little bit of critical thinking at the political level and just said, okay,
But-
what's the plan? Outlay the plan. Okay, that's actually a good idea, and then we'll either get behind it or we'll say, you know what, these are the things I don't like about the plan. Let's go back and revisit it as a collective team. We need diverse opinions to be able to make good decisions, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's not. It's always party politics. It's,
Absolutely.
you know,
It's shitting on red and shitting on blue at the moment, and
Yeah.
that's it. And it doesn't matter how intelligent any idea is. It's just going to be. It's not going to gain any ground because it wasn't my idea.
well,
And
yeah,
that's just. And I wonder, like, why they can't see it, because I know the majority of centrists can, and I think unfortunately everybody's exhausted and don't know what they can do if anything, so they just do nothing.
yeah, they do nothing.
Right? I mean, they don't even vote. I mean, voter turnout, I think on the last election was up, but until then, I mean, it's nothing. You look at a municipal level, I think it's single digits.
Yeah, it's awful. It's
No,
absolutely
like nobody
awful.
goes out because nobody gives a shit. People don't even run. Like you say, they're
Yeah.
acclaimed.
They're claimed. Yeah, yeah.
And who's always acclaimed? It's like, I mean, I just sound like an ageist here, but it's just older people that are retired already and upper middle class, upper class people.
Yeah, they don't have the same problems as they have a skewed perception of what the world is really like.
And that's what I told somebody
Yeah.
there yesterday. I said I'd love to see some, like, at 35 to maybe 50. You're in the prime. You should be making decisions, influencing decisions.
yeah.
But we're going to ask a bunch of 55 plus people what their view on TikTok is. Like, none of them even have it. You
Well,
know?
and that's the other side of things. So yeah, there's all this nonsense that happens in the House of Commons, but then how many people will actually engage their local representative, whether it's a county councillor, an MLA, or an MP? How many people actually go to them and say, this thing that you're discussing, this thing that's on the table, this is how it's going to affect me. Now, this is my opinion, or I think that's fucking retarded, or whatever. This is how it's going to actually impact me.
Yeah.
And can you please, the next time you're sitting at the table and you're having this conversation, can you advocate for me on, that's why you were elected, is to advocate for the people within your riding or whatever, right?
Yep.
They don't. Let's all just take to social media because that's the tool.
But I would
But it means nothing because social media has never, ever, ever held anybody accountable.
answer that question with a question. Has anyone ever had success doing it? About 5 years ago, when the crime spree was running rampant, we were victims of crime about 6 times in a 3-month window,
Mm-hmm.
to the tune of, I don't know, $400,000 probably. We lost 3 vehicles, all the tools, all our guns, everything. We couldn't, no matter what we did, if we left anything anywhere for any amount of time, it was gone.
Yeah.
So it finally came to a head. We wrote our MLA, we wrote the our MP, we wrote, and we, you know what we got? We got like, oh yeah, well, we sympathize with you.
Sure, but that's, I mean,
Fuck.
you're one
Thanks.
guy that presents an argument, but I mean, for something that a community can get behind, you know, if everybody agrees, like the whole thing with the schools now that's happening between our two communities, right? All this rhetoric that's on social media, we'll take it to the school board. Show up en masse to the school board, hold the people that are in those positions accountable as a collective.
Well, see, I went to that in Hythe. They held an open house or whatever, and that was more insanity. So I went there expecting.
I bet it was.
I went there expecting chairs laid out. I expected a panel of people who, you know, educators, the board. I expected some answers, some questions. What we got was take a sticker and put it on the fucking wall under either Horse Lake, Hythe, or Beaver Lodge to indicate where you're from.
Where you're from.
We didn't sign anything. There was no method of taking attendance, so they didn't know how many people were there other than the stickers, which I don't think anybody did. I put my sticker up there. And then you were supposed to walk around and write shit on sticky tabs and put it on the wall. And they had said the board, like the trustees or what are they?
Board of Trustees, yeah.
They made a motion. I'd have a little bit more, please, sir. They made a motion they wouldn't attend those. They didn't, so they could, I guess, remain
Unaccountable.
on account. And I thought, I even asked the guy, I was like, are you fucking serious? Like, the people that are ultimately going to make the decision have voted that they won't come to these open houses?
They can't even come to actually engage.
And I think one was in Phoenix and the other one was where, you know, so there was this big joke. And I wrote a letter and I sent it off. And, so when I got there, I thought, and I had told someone too, I said, I wonder if it's a situation where the decision's already been made and now they're just throwing this out there to the public, to both all 3 communities and looking for a little bit of feedback, which they don't give a shit about.
They're just decisions made and they're just checking a box.
Doing a little bit of due diligence, because like what came out of that was just so stupid. So stupid. So yeah, we had left. I stayed for the whole 2 hours and then we left filled out a couple of things that I had put down in my letter, wrote them up on the sticky chart. And I said, well, what's going to happen now? And they said, well, the people conducting the survey, they're going to take all this information and then take it to the board. They have a
third-party consultant that
$55,000 that cost the taxpayer.
Yeah,
$55,000 for somebody to decide the viability of having a school in Beaver Lodge or removing the kids
maybe
from high
that's
school.
what we need to do. Is we need to start a consulting firm to help governments make decisions.
It's shocking what they charge.
We'd have a new suit every week.
Oh man,
we'd just be making bankroll constantly.
I'd never have one dry cleaned and throw it away.
Yeah, wouldn't that be something?
Would never leave my shoes in the box when I left the hotel room.
Yeah, just
get a new pair.
Just fuck it. Just, you know, I used to work with a guy on the rigs that would do that. He would never do laundry.
Oh yeah,
just throw it away, buy new clothes. Crazy the mentality there.
What other numbers did I have here?
Are you warm enough right now?
I'm not too bad. Yeah.
You know what? I'm gonna actually turn on the fireplace.
You're gonna fire it up?
I'm a little chilled. It's a little cooler here this evening.
So then I guess another question is, so like how much does it cost to actually keep social programs funded? And if anybody's still with us here, I guess it looks like there's about 7 of them. I did read the budget. Now, Stan knows I'm not a strong reader. I actually I don't enjoy reading all that much, but in preparation for this evening, I read there was one part of the budget that was 36 pages, kind of seemed to be, what a dry read, but I hammered through it anyways. 2022, 2023, $24.2 billion in tax revenue for Alberta. 13.3 billion of personal tax, 6.3 billion of corporate tax, 4.6 billion of other tax things like fuel and stuff like that. So 24.2 billion to fund the province, I guess, in just
Just
tax revenue. Now there was 70, it's like something like 76 billion of like total revenue.
Yeah.
But my point is what does it cost to run things like shelters, food banks, hospitals, schools, police and fire, ambulance? Like, I was joking with that same guy. We were talking about all this stuff, and he said, could you imagine if you could just get a taste of that, what your farm could look like?
Oh.
And I said, for just a taste of what the government wastes,
for just a
I
crumb
could
from
turn
that
this
table.
into something the world would envy. Our
Yeah.
2,500 acre farm, it would be state of the art.
100%.
You know, you would manage properly. You'd manage the funds instead of just wasting it. You know, that's another joke. I had heard somewhere that it was like, I don't know, $600 to fix a manhole, but if it was a federally or provincially funded project, it was like 10x it. And I'm thinking, like, why? And how in fact do these people? And that's why, like, instead of counselors and things, someone asked me once, because I told them I don't even like that system anymore. I think it's outdated. We should be able to do better. He said, "What would you do?" I said, "What you need to do is you need to find a CEO of a small company who did very well for that company, and then you say, look, we used to have 10 counselors. They all made $100,000 a year. We're going to give you $1.5 million a year to run the county like the business that you just ran. If you come over, plus, you know, or matches pay, whatever. But you run this properly. Treat it like a business. So you will have some control over the spending." There was a couple that was getting some molasses. They said, I think they said $750,000 in Prince George for a public washroom in a park. One men's side, women's side. I can't remember. I don't even think there were flush toilets. So just an
outhouse.
And I was thinking, like, holy smokes! Like, we were in the midst of building our home.
Yeah.
Which was not that. And I thought, like, you could build a whole entire house privately, or you could build a building with one washroom on this side and one washroom on that side for quite a bit more.
You just need a general contractor and
shocking,
make it happen.
Shocking. But this, you know, like, a lack of accountability. And I really think that I don't know if it's their own fear of being ridiculed and you know, maybe persecuted for making these terrible decisions. But it seems like these elected people run it so from such a distance where they're just like right hands off. They don't even ask questions. So you said earlier, does anybody hold these people accountable? They don't even ask questions themselves.
No, that's probably true.
A lot of times, you know, like, how, you know, instead of saying, "Hey, how does it cost that much money?" You know, because I even told one once. I said that should be made public.
Yeah.
When a contractor comes to you with a tender offer that is so outlandish, ludicrous, absolute price gouging, that should actually be made public. You want to have something to write about to your constituents. You want to make a newsletter. Put that in there. Company A just tried to pull one over on the county for $1 million for something that, you know, would cost $50,000 if we did it privately.
Well, I remember because I was on council in Beaver Lodge for a number of years, and I remember a project came up there to redo the signage in town, and part of that signage project was the entrance signs in and out of town, right? And to build a stone, like a cairn with a log coming out of it, and a sign that swung there saying Beaver Lodge, place to build dreams, was going to cost $275,000 per sign. For a sign to say, you know, welcome to Beaver Lodge. And this is, you know, a town of 2,500 people or 2,600 people, something like that. So, no, absolutely not. Unacceptable, absolutely not. But there were people at that table at that time that were just like, oh, this is just gorgeous.
Can't pass up things like that.
Can't possibly, you know, look the other way at this one. Like, why would you oppose this? Why are you being a roadblock? Well,
it's absurd.
Because believe it or not, I'm actually a taxpayer as well. Like, you know, but that is you know, not to be an ageist again, but the over 55 retired crowd, you know, they're living pretty comfortably with somebody else's money in their pocket, right? So.
And if he says TikTok's being banned because the Chinese government bought a major share in the company, yeah, I had heard that China owned the whole thing anyways. What's the cost of not being able to work?
place in Montana will do one for 20 grand by a professional. It's crap. Our system can't handle the volume. I occasionally watch the House of Commons on CPAC. It's disgusting how they never answer a question. It's terrible. In there, it's too
partisan. Yeah.
Yeah, that's out. It is it's unwatchable. It really is. I agree, Chad.
Yeah.
You shake your head like you in your wildest dreams you wouldn't believe that grown-ups would behave that way.
Well, and what I can't believe is, so you'll see, somebody will ask a question on one side of the floor, and the other person will, give this run around and never answer the question, and all the people behind that individual will stand up and applaud,
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, like you stuck it to him, and it's like, no, you just said the dumbest shit on the planet and didn't answer the question,
right?
Like it's absolutely shameful. The whole lot of them should be just run out of there.
Absolutely, and that's one thing too. Why I don't understand, and I guess I don't maybe understand the Speaker of the House's full duties, but I watched that one back and forth between Pierre Poilievre and some minister or whatever, and he said, "How much does the average house cost in Canada right now?" And the guy said, "We are going to stand up and work for Canadians," and he went through his whole bunch of bullshit. And then Pierre said, "How much?" And then he stood up and he said again, "How much?" And that went back and forth like 4 or 5 times. And he said again, "How much?" Never answered the question, never changed his question, and the Speaker never said anything. And I thought, what is that? What is Pierre making? 182 now that he's the leader now. So
yeah, he's probably 300.
What's this minister making? Whatever. What's the Speaker making? So for whatever, probably a combined wage of $700,000. That's what you've paid for in Canada.
You got no answer out of it.
Is someone saying how much and someone not answering the question at all? And I don't understand that either, right? Like, what would be the problem with standing up and saying, I don't actually know? You tell me. Maybe you do know. I mean, what would be so hard with answering the question?
What would be the problem with the guy behind him going, StatsCan, okay. Last year it was $716,000. It is now increased to $752,000. You can find that information. We've done a live stream that we talked explicitly about that. That information is publicly available at your fingertips.
So what are they scared of? Is what I want to know. What are they so?
Yeah, like you would think that the government has, in the multiple layers of bureaucracy that they do have people that work specifically in statistical analysis that could tell you what that number is and why that number is what it is. And then you could put whatever political spin on it you want at that point. But just be honest and say, yeah, this is what it is.
And that's one thing I don't understand.
Okay, we recognize that, okay, the cost of a house has gone up last year from $716,000 now it's $752,000. This is why this has gone up. And this is now the whatever party or whatever. This is our plan to address this in the future. Even if you don't have a plan, we've struck a committee and we're working to address it.
I really think that would be the biggest gotcha moment in the House is if one of the parties answered a question. I really believe that. Like you say, if they would just come and be like, "Hey, oh, you want the numbers? These are the numbers," because then what are you going to? Well, what are you going to do about it?
Well,
we're the government. We're working on it.
Oh, Pierre, like, love him or hate him. I mean, I'm on both sides of the fence with him particularly, but I mean, he knows the answer to the question he's asking you. So if you come up with an answer, I mean, I think he would stand there dumbfounded. I don't think he's ready to have a question actually answered.
I would agree with you.
That's why he's so articulate. That's why he's such a threat.
I agree with you 100% on that. If you were to answer these people's questions, answer them properly or to the best of your knowledge, I don't think they would have a rebuttal. They would just look at you like, and I think, and that maybe points to the shame of the system entirely. They're so used to not being held accountable for the questions they ask or the answers that they give.
Yeah.
It just is. Oh, moving on.
Yeah.
Right. You asked a question, you didn't answer it. Moving on. Like how is the business done? It's not done.
Why does the Speaker even allow that?
The rest of Canada is still sitting here wondering what's going to happen in this particular situation, and yet
that's the thing. It's not actually debate, right?
No,
not true debate. Like there's no real winner that comes out of that. Just if 38 million losers, or however many folks live in Canada, right?
Yeah. The other thing I found very interesting about the budget with the dry read is, and I realized it would probably be quite a document if they were to itemize a lot of things, but it is very vague what the general public gets to know. Like when you talk about allocating $600 million to something, okay, like so.
Show me the breakdown.
Yeah, so where, right? Where does it just
Yeah.
like, what percentage of that goes to wages? What percentage of that actually hits the dirt? And I was really shocked. And one that was interesting to me. So you knew that what Nautico or whatever was going to build that big petrochemical plant.
Yep.
So the town was supposed to be like $2 billion.
That's right.
One of the probably the biggest project ever in Alberta. Me and some of the people that I know early on were very skeptical, and we didn't believe that was even going to happen, and we didn't know to what extent the push was. You found out right away that ex-MLAs were involved.
Yeah.
So anyways,
So pockets are pre-greased, essentially.
one thing I meant to write it down. It's just not in my notes. But there was in the budget in 2021 or 22, whatever, they had added another $88 million to something called the Alberta Petrochemical Initiative or whatever. And I wondered, and so this is just purely me wondering. There's no facts behind this at all. Did they actually give them $88 million worth of grants and funding to build this, and then they've canceled the project? So where did the
money go? Where did the money go?
Is this a situation where a program was already heavily funded, and I read through some of the grants, it was to reclaim abandoned wells and things like that, or orphaned wells, things of that nature. But there was another $88 million added around the time, and it says in there Alberta Petrochemical Initiative or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I thought, like, where's the breakdown to the $300 and some million? And if in fact they already gave the oil companies $300 million last year, do they need another $20 billion this year? Like that seems like a yet again. When we had there was an art trib on our property, it wasn't ours. It was being used by somebody else, and they took it down and they said, "Well, can you dig the pilings out for us?" And we're like, "Yeah, okay, we got an old backhoe. We'll go ahead and do that."
Sure.
They said, "Okay, just send us a bill." So my dad went up there and he dug it all out, and he was hard pressed to come up with any extraordinary value. I mean, he spent like 3 hours.
Yeah.
And I mean, really, what's an old backhoe? Like $100 an hour? There was no trucking, so you couldn't put that in there.
Yeah,
so all this work for $300, and we laughed about it. We thought, like, if an oil company hired a backhoe to come do this, imagine what the bill would be. It wouldn't be $300.
Well, no, it wouldn't be. It wouldn't be. And I remember, well, you recall our Westfield and the weed problem we had there, and so we had addressed that with the oil company that ran the pipeline across there, and the solution that they came up with was to hire a local weed control company to come in and to spray it. And one of the proposals was maybe they would spray the rest of the field for us at the same time. But then we find out, like, what's the cost, and they wanted $2,000 an acre to spray. It's like, it's beyond laughable, right? Like,
well, I
just gouging.
I know very well what it costs an agricultural applicator to spray.
I know what it costs because I had you come and spray the field.
They spray for about $8 an acre plus the chemical.
Yeah. So we got a few more folks come on. Glenn's on. Glenn Gillis. Good evening, gentlemen. Well, good evening, Glenn. Glad you could make it in. Chad said his local council bungled a $38 million water pipeline going to cost us $20 million extra because of their incompetency. Nobody fired yet either. Meeting next week. Heads should roll.
That's
absurd. So $38 million. I mean, I don't know if that's a county council or if that's a town council, but if you look at the tax roll for an average 3,000 person municipality in Alberta, the tax roll is approximately $6 million per year, right? So you look at a project like that, how many years of tax, do you have to collect to fuck that up, right? Crazy. And then Ty says, you guys hear about the small cities land use proposal? Seems effed up to me. Oh, comments just went crazy here. trying to control everything, the trees and how much livestock you can have and permits for everything. Oh, wow, boy, we could take
Don't get Stan started.
we could take a left turn here.
Stan's not on our side, Ty.
Well, no, I don't think that I'm not on your side.
No.
I think that's maybe a misinterpretation. I think there's again back to the quality of the individuals that we find to be in elected official positions. We have people that are making decisions that are beyond their capabilities.
Absolutely, that's
Right.
a for sure. Yeah,
They're not competent in their area of decision making. Therefore, they need to hire third-party consultants to make recommendations to them. And anybody in an elected position is only able to make the best decision they can possibly make based upon the quality of the information they have available to them, right? So if they hire a third-party consulting firm and they come up, they do a $2 million study, and they at the end of these studies, they always pitch you, A, B, or C. It's never a holistic picture. It's A, B, or C typically. And if none of those ideas is really good, or the community consultation is fucking stickers on a wall, it's garbage in, garbage out is essentially what you get, right? And I think so. There was some discussion around Thorhill County and what they're doing with their land use bylaw and really restrictive. The problem with Thorhill County, and it's an endemic problem in a lot of other municipal areas in Alberta, is that where are the facts coming? So the communication coming from the counties is very, very minimal. And so the general public is like up in arms based upon what they've heard on social media. County of Grand Prairie that we both live in, of course, they're looking to update their land use bylaw. The last time that land use bylaw was updated was 1993. Was it 93? No, it was 2003. That's what it was, because it's 20 years since the last time they updated. So if you think 2003, where was the city of Grand Prairie in perspective to where was the county of Grand Prairie? Like Claremont was actually physically separated from the city. The city itself at that point in time was, I think they struck 100,000 people, but 60% of them were transient population, people that come in for work and then never left and never really paid any taxes, to now being probably 3 times that much, and an actual established population base. The city has now grown. The county's urban area immediately surrounding the city has grown exponentially. Industrial parks, residential areas, a number of recreational facilities, plus the development of, well, easily 40, I would say probably 40 different large-scale rural subdivisions, right? So they'll take 2 or 3/4 sections of land and they'll put 150 houses on there, on a 1.5 or 2 or sometimes 2.5 acre lots. And a lot of those people, they go 2.5 acres. Why wouldn't they want to have a goat or a chicken or whatever? But really, all those people want that live in those large subdivisions, for the greater majority of the population, is to live in some type of an HOA, right? They want a homeowners association. They want to have established boundaries, guidelines. They want to have a lot of fucking lawn to mow, but they don't want to listen to roosters. They don't want to smell. They don't want to smell cow shit. They don't want to. They want to live in town, but
they don't want to see barbed wire fences.
They don't want to see barbed wire fences. They don't want to have
like
their view obstructed by your trees. They don't want to have any of that, right? And so that crowd has a lot of this, and therefore has a lot of speaking power. Quite often, they have the ability and the wherewithal to rub shoulders with all the people that are making political decisions. And the people that are making political decisions, of course, we're all creatures of our environment. If we're surrounded by that kind of noise, that's what we're going to be susceptible to, right? So, yeah. Do I think there's a World Economic Forum thing happening, where the folks that all went to Davos are thinking, well, you know what, let's starve the population out by taking their chickens away. I don't think that's factual, but I think there's a lot of people that lack the competence and the general intelligence to make an independent decision that serves the needs of their constituents effectively, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I followed that along pretty good. I definitely agree with a lot of that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Like, I really, just a quick backtrack here. So I was talking about needing controllers to ensure that government spending is going properly. And I guess you could think of that both ways and say, well, these people just, they only want the money to go where they think it should go. And I mean, to a certain degree,
Yeah.
that's right. But as long as you have decent morals and the best interests at heart, then maybe that is the way it should go. So back to this land thing, I do truly believe that there are people that should not be responsible for chunks of land.
Well,
I really do
there's
believe
people
that.
with this that don't have this.
But
That they should never be allowed to own large portions of land or livestock, or
absolutely.
God forbid
and
you
right-
allowed them to walk into PV Mart and buy some barbed wire because
And like, money aside, I mean, just because you can get the financing to get a mortgage on a 5-acre lot and a house and everything, there are people there that can't manage it. And yet again, the same guy that I was talking to, I said, you wouldn't believe we run into this because when we first got inspected by the federal government, is because we got reported for reusing mini bulk bags for animal feed.
Yeah.
When the government came out, they said, well, what you're doing is actually fine. And believe it or not, because my wife's past job and just, being young or whatever, my whole involvement in the oil patch was very heavily safety weighted, and reports and stop cards and JSAs and all these things.
Yep.
So when we started the feed thing, before we were ever inspected by the government, we had all these forms prepared already.
pre-established.
Because we are from the cover your ass generation.
Sure.
So we didn't force it on a lot of our customers, but we had it in the background. It all existed. We had tags, we had tag numbers, we had and we actually had a whole procedure for reusing bags.
Yeah.
If there was blood on them, if they were ripped, if there was feces on them, we didn't reuse them, we threw them away because it becomes a biohazard.
Sure.
All sorts of things. It becomes a safety hazard if the straps are ripped. All of this stuff wasn't worth it. When the government saw that, they were like, "That's amazing. Keep doing what you're doing."
That. Yeah.
The reason I bring this up, you would think that everybody you're dealing with is like-minded. They're all grown-ups. They're all adults. They're all mature. That this won't be an issue. You would not believe the amount of shit that gets returned because somebody doesn't think it's an issue. They had the bag in the back of their truck. They went hunting. They shot an elk. They fucking fired it in the back of the truck. It bled all over the bag. Then they ripped it out over their fifth wheel hitch and ripped a big hole in the side of it. And they bring it back and they say, "Well, we exchange this bag?" And I'm thinking, like, are you fucking nuts?
Are they really that dumb, or do they just lack the integrity?
Well, either way, there people exist with a mindset that is so different than what you think should be going on. Which is back to my point of, I don't really think everybody should be responsible or can handle, the responsibility of being in control of 3, 10, 15, 100,000. It doesn't matter how many acres. They don't do it properly. They actually degrade it instead of adding to it, establishing it, and making it better. So much like controlling where the funds go from the taxpayer's purse, you need to have some controls to say, look, you cannot do this.
But how much of that is our own fault? And I say our own fault is in terms of content creators that share our journey on some form of media, right? Like, so there's a lot of homesteaders, new developers, farmers on YouTube, on Facebook, on TikTok. And much like a lot of media forums, they share a lot of the good stuff, right? They share the cutesy, artsy, fartsy stuff, but they don't share the hard days. They don't share the brutality. They don't share the logic in decision making. They don't share the why. They don't share the passion. They just share that only the good stuff, right? So it's very alluring to somebody that doesn't know what they're getting into to come, okay, well, let's just get in over our head and jump in with both feet. And then, I mean, it's not unpredictable that, a lot of people get in beyond their capability.
Yeah, that's very true. I don't know if there's any amount of information you could give certain people though that would ever sway them from making a decision, right? I mean, people
No.
are wired the way they're wired. Like for instance, the junkyard mechanic, right? That individual doesn't ever see a problem with having 45 vehicles strewn out the lawn in all various stages of disrepair, all that they're going to get to eventually. Whereas the next person down the road isn't interested in that at all. So you have heads that are really mashing. So what you do need is some sort of regulation to meet somewhere in the middle, where there has to be
And I think
concessions made.
I think that's where the land use bylaw is really, that's the tool to use, right?
And
but that's where like okay, well, I need a permit to put up a barbed wire fence. That's what I've heard, right?
Mhm.
That's been the biggest thing is, well, they're going to make you get a permit to put up a barbed wire fence now. Well, is that factual? Like if I own a quarter section or multiple quarters of land and I need to fence for, my well-established herd of livestock, if I need to fence an area, do I really need to pull a permit for that? Or do I actually need to pull a permit to fence off an area within a rural subdivision?
Exactly, right. That's
Right?
exactly it.
And I think that's a lot of the facts that are actually behind some of the proposals are getting lost, right? There's some lady out there that they own 0.75 of an acre and they've got 2 donkeys, 7 goats, 50 chickens, is completely incapable of sustaining that that animal mass on that footprint of land, and they're all up in arms because the county's saying, well, you really shouldn't have that there.
Mhm.
Well, now they're taking away my ability to feed myself, and well, they want me to cut down my trees, and I don't think anybody in any government is actually saying you should really cut down 50-year-old mature spruce trees, or that. I don't think that's factual, right?
I agree.
Especially not in the climate we have now, where we're talking of climate. See what I did there? But there's a whole conversation around climate change, and so nobody's saying cut down trees like that.
Well, they certainly shouldn't be.
They certainly shouldn't be, and if there is, if there is that discussion, it has to be some very specific context in order to be accurate, right? So I highly doubt that the county's guy's going to drive up the road here and say, oh yeah, you've got a shelter belt here, which how many municipalities funded at no cost to the landowner the shelter belt program for like 25 or 30 years? And they're going to come back and say, you got too many trees there now. We're going to bring in a track and we're going to get rid of them all for you. Like, it doesn't make a lot of sense, right? So,
well, certainly not to me.
But at the same time, there is, factually the other side of the argument that Thorhill County is a prime example. They did not engage with their constituents properly. They brought proposals to the table that they third-partied an independent study through a third-party company, and what was that? The GSI or whatever. I forget what it stands for. It's green something.
Oh yeah.
Whatever,
yeah.
Right? It's a company I think the company's out of India or something like that. So that's another example, right? So you get people that are supposedly experts, but geographically they're so out of touch, and you pay them a whole bunch of money to come up with these options, and it's just like not even feasible for where you're at.
Right, and this all does segue back into answering questions and delivering the information, because I know a lot of people they worry too about overreach. Like, okay, so once we make this policy in our new land use bylaw and it says permits for like, it's not even, in some cases people worry about how the way it's going to be written, right? So permits for fences, and like you say, okay, does that apply to me trying to fence off my quarter section, or does that apply to the individual in town on a well,
that's easily
7,000 square foot lot that wants to put a 6-wire barbed wire fence around?
Yeah. And it's, if you understand like land use bylaws, if you've ever read a land use bylaw, I mean, you just read the provincial budget and talked about how dry it was. Land use bylaws are really, really dry. And why I'm passionate about this is because I actually sit on the land use subdivision appeal board for the local municipality, right? So
okay,
I'm invested in this process, not in the decision-making process, but when somebody comes with a proposal to the municipality and the municipality turns it around, says, no, they can appeal that process and it comes to the appeal board, and I sit on that committee, right? So
Hmm.
I see a lot of those decisions that come through, and usually it's somebody wants to build some like highly industrialized process in a residential area, right? And you have districts or land use zones, right? There's always like zoning issues, right? Something's an R1 residential, someone's an HC3, like a highway commercial, and then they want to do something completely different in that area because they got a steal of a deal on the land or whatever, and it's strategically positioned within that community that they could really make it go with the business, but it's not a good fit for everything that's around it.
Yeah.
Right. And so that to me is really what's happening. So you've got areas within sure, it's a rural municipality, right? It's a county, it's not an urban area, but you've built up an urban area by having 40 houses on a quarter section of land. You can't possibly expect that community now to act as though everybody's going to build a barn and we're all going to keep donkeys and llamas, and like that's not how the world works, right? So to say that that they're going to get a permit for a barbed wire fence, no, they're going to say if you're zoned RR2, rural residential 2, right? If you're zoned that, you would need to get a permit to build a barbed wire fence. But if you're zoned AR1, agricultural residential, fill your boots, do what you got to do, right? Because we've got no oversight over that. Just manage your business, right? So, and that's usually how the bylaws are written. But on the surface, to somebody that's just reading that, if they even read it, and it's not just allegory that they picked up off social media, for them to be able to comprehend it without actual consultation with the subdivision and development board, I don't know how they would. Right?
Well, and that's one thing too, and certainly that's been really brought to light and highlighted over the last few years with all forms of social media and even like the national media at large. There is just way too much clip picking and not looking at things in their entirety or doing almost no forward research before making a decision yourself, right? I mean, we see this all the time with people getting actually just write out misinformation, but they've already made up their mind based on that. And you're like, well, no, that's actually not at all what's happening.
Yeah, well, like the recent social media posts that happened on our community page here on Facebook, the Height and Be, I think it was you that screenshotted and sent it to me or whatever. I went on there and I joined the group, and there was a lady saying they are coming to do this, and they are already enforcing this before it's even pushed through. And anytime somebody says the word "they" in a conversation without naming a specific individual, organization, group, person, whoever it is, I immediately distrust that person, because it's the boogeyman theory, right? They're coming for who the fuck are they?
Yeah.
Who are they? Name them. Name your demon, whoever it is. Show me who it is, right? So I found that post, and I of course I question it. I'm like, who are they? Show me where they are. And I get screenshots from somebody else's social media post. Okay, well, send me a link to the government website, to the county proposed bylaws. Send me that link. Well, and then I get a screenshot of, well, this happened over in Winfield. Where the fuck is Winfield? It's not in the county of Grand Prairie. Well, they're already trying to enforce this, and the bylaw is not even pushed through. Well, who are they? Enforcement? Because I know county enforcement's not enforcing anything. They're not going to do anything that's not backed up by bylaw, because you take it to court and it's going to get thrown out.
Yeah.
So it's the boogeyman theory, and it's all just fear mongering and nonsense. And granted, you do have to be prepared and ahead of it, and understand what the consequences and the implications and the impact to you potentially are. But if all you're going to do is saber rattle and fear monger on social media, and not actually go have a coffee with your county councillor, and just say, hey, I've heard this. Is it true? Is there any, because these are my concerns. And maybe, maybe you get a letter in the mail that says, whatever, right? But if enough people actually do that and hold their municipal councillors, again, it's making decisions at the lowest operational level, you're going to have the greatest impact.
Yeah.
But if you distance yourself from it and try to get people to come in and, they get everybody riled up, well, if you're a politician and you see an angry mob, what are you going to do?
You generally don't want to go hang out there.
You don't want to hang out there. And any decision you make is going to be very reactionary and probably not the best overall decision for the community.
Well, absolutely.
And the loudest voice in the room is not always the most correct voice in the room as well.
That is very true.
Yeah.
What did Ty say there?
Who says it makes sense now, and Randy has to peace out for the night there.
He's
So,
gone.
well, thanks for joining us. Anyways, what is it? 10 o'clock here now.
I was thinking. I
hours?
seen that there was 2 hours. That's amazing. So, like, a bit of a smaller cigar, but as far as smoke time, like,
What are your thoughts on this cigar?
this is a really good cigar. I really enjoy this.
The second third got
Spicy.
very powerful and spicy,
Yeah.
and now it's kind of mellowed out, and it's very smooth.
I noticed when I relit mine there into like the last third that it got a little hot.
Yeah,
But it's like that's 2 hours already of, like, say, kind of a shorter, smaller ring. Well, maybe not smaller ring gauge.
it's a 54 ring gauge,
So-
but it's box pressed too, right? So
Yeah. I don't know if that. It seems to be.
the draw's been good throughout for mine, though.
It has, but it seems to be maybe oil. Like the wrapper is oily, so it keeps it and it burns so even.
Yeah, so this is I should have mentioned that at the beginning, but of course I winged it and I didn't bring the notes, so I forgot to mention it. But that's actually an Ecuadorian Sumatran wrapper with Nicaraguan filler, right? So yeah, you're going to get a lot of that oil coming off the.
Well, you can really notice that
Off
in
the
this
wrapper,
cigar.
right? Yeah.
I was wondering if it was that extra shot of glycol in the humidor that seasoned it perfectly, but what a really good smoke.
Yeah, this was a good one.
Because that's one of the most even. I mean, that's the first time I lost an ash altogether.
Yeah, but yeah, you look at that now, we're down to the edge and it's just pretty much a straight line, right? So, and yeah, it's had some relights, but I mean, like I said, I've been working intently to keep that humidity at 70%. That's one of the challenges with the weather in Alberta is the fluctuations and how very dry we get when it gets really, really cold, right? So this got as low as 58%.
Oh
Was the lowest it got. I think I got it about 68 there now.
Yeah. It's ideal, anyways.
But
It's in the ideal.
It took when we were at that minus 35 there for a couple of weeks. It took a lot of swings in the temperature, but the humidity has stayed really, really low. It's tough with cedar, and so I'm up on an Alberta cigar page and just kind of listen to what other people do. And there's a lot of people that say like Alberta in the winter is absolutely brutal on cigars, right? And so many of them choose not to use a humidor. They actually use just a Tupperdoor, which is a sealed plastic container, and they chuck Bovita packs in there, and that's how they maintain it through the winter. But it hasn't been too big of a problem to date until very recently because it's dark in here, it's cool in here, and it is really a good environment for cigars.
Well, and I was actually amazed, like when the messages or whatever you send me, because one thing we knew going into this was a glass top humidor is one of the hardest to maintain.
They are hard to maintain
because you have an extra seal where the glass is in the wood.
Yeah, that's right.
And but I mean, we had given her the few tests there when it was new, and you could, when you let the lid go, you'd get that puff, right?
That's right. Yeah, you get
so
a little burp.
It seemed to be, and I mean that was a good humidor.
Yeah,
so
and you still get it even now. Like
it seemed to be.
It's like when you go to lift it, there's a vacuum on it.
Yeah.
Right? The lid does seal for sure, but it's just no different than the chicken house, right? When it's 80% humidity outside, how are you going to lower your humidity to 55%?
Right.
If the external humidity in the wintertime when it's 30 below is 61%, you have a real tough time maintaining it in there, right? So
speaking of that, I was in the old chicken coop there last night doing a little video, and I've noticed the walls like so damp. because I've been struggling with my deep litter method, trying to keep
yeah,
it warm.
gotta keep it stirred up, right?
So, but it's cool. It was warm enough in there.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna get a cold blast coming here.
Ours
so we'll
is
see how
not.
that-
Ours is our pile is running about 45 degrees Celsius right
Okay.
now. Yeah. So
I was forking mine around again just yesterday.
Yeah.
So I have to give her a test. But well, what an I was telling my dad about it, and he's got the heat gun when he goes up there too, and he was just like, I guess, amazed and confused at why they didn't do that.
yeah.
Way back in the day, like he said, they had a wood stove in there, which ultimately burnt it down.
Yeah. Well,
But
supper's ready.
he said, I guess he said there was the neighbors drove by one day, and kind of the joke was there was smoke coming out of every chimney in every building except the house. Like the barn was warm, and the chicken coop was warm, and everything.
Yeah.
The pump house. I guess my grandpa was a bit of a blacksmith, so that was
So you had
everything.
wood stoves everywhere?
Everything was fired up and cooking hot, and there's smoke coming out of everywhere but the house. So
Yeah.
what a way to live. So yeah, he was quite interested in that. And a few of the guys promote that way when they pick up their feed, and I explained that. They're like, that's crazy because every Sunday we cleaned the chicken coop out in the past.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting how successful like we've been with it, because a lot of people, they do want to clean it out, and it's like, well, I want to have it clean because of bacteria and the salmonella risk, and it's like, okay, but if you're actively composting and you're hitting 135 degrees, those bad pathogens they can't survive, right? So it is actually very clean in there, right? And,
yeah.
well, I mean, I watched your video, and I mean, your chicken house is extremely clean. Probably cleaner than mine, actually.
Well, it's fairly new, right? So I mean, it's not aged,
Not seasoned.
not seasoned. So
Oh, that's good.
yeah.
So social programs. What's your take on foreign aid?
Foreign aid. I don't understand. And I was talking to, I think, my dad about this the other day. Would we send $10 million to Turkey and Syria for the earthquakes?
Yeah.
And we sent something like 300
Yeah.
million or something for bombs, and sent some tanks and shit.
For Ukraine.
Yeah, I'm confused and conflicted, because I feel that compassion for your fellow man is probably at an all-time low historically, rivaling the Dark Ages, where they didn't care about anybody, and I guess the Wild West, where they would just shoot you over a spilled glass of whiskey.
Sure.
But right now we see a lot of anger towards each other. If there's merit to it or not, it's kind of irrelevant. And I was really thinking, like, they suffered a tremendous tragedy. Like the death toll is just absurd.
Yeah.
And we could come up with, I think, $10 million. And I thought that's a real shame. We have money to blow up existing infrastructure.
Yeah.
But we don't have money to help. So as far as foreign aid, I would be all for it if we were applying it yet again where I think it should go.
Yeah. So, and I don't mean any offense to any, Ukrainian Canadians or people of Ukrainian descent that are watching, but I certainly don't support really any of the money that's gone that direction.
I don't either.
I really don't. We send a piece of equipment, like you say, we send a piece of equipment that's worth $10 million. But we don't send a piece of equipment. We send a couple handfuls of equipment to what is arguably could potentially be thought of as one of the most corrupt nations on the planet, right? With no accountability, no oversight. It's just, here you go, we're helping.
Yeah.
And what is the impact? I get the impact to Europe potentially to intervene in whatever is going on there. There's a lot of people in Eastern European and even Central European nations that probably don't want Russia to be their neighbor, and they want some type of a landmass between them, right?
Yeah.
A bit of a barrier,
a gray area where throughout there it ends and turns European.
And they don't really care, how corrupt or what the quality of life is of those people. All they really care about is, not having Vladimir Putin for their neighbor and kind of dictating how things are going to go, because suddenly they lose a little bit of control. They're not the biggest fish in the pond anymore within their jurisdiction. So I really don't support sending a lot of money that way, because it's a selfish contribution. But so we send $10 million to Turkey. Well, I don't know. I think it's disingenuous. Does it really help? Probably doesn't help a whole bunch, right?
Yeah.
We could have sent those people a significant amount more and probably done something of value. We could have sent the Canadian military over there.
Yeah.
Not from a military perspective, but like manpower
from
perspective, humanitarian
right?
aid perspective,
Absolutely.
right? We could have actually done something that mattered and made a difference.
And that's a really good point. Like, your any nation's military, first and foremost is defense. However, the humanitarian aspect behind it, you have this tremendous infrastructure idling, when you're not at war, and it's constant training and in constant repair and in constant maintenance. So you would think a time like that, you would be able to have basically global mobilization for whatever you needed to remedy this disaster as quickly and efficiently as possible. And you just don't really seem like to me, that's a time where you could have call your leaders right away, emergency meeting. Okay, we got to get this stuff on the go.
Yeah.
Right. And whatever has to be said and discussed, right? It should go without saying that this is not a military exercise. Of course, in the world we live in, all of this stuff is fabricated and made up. That, well, why are they going over there? Why are they sending this there? There's probably some sinister plot behind it, right? And that's the world we've created for some odd reason, where it shouldn't be. Those planes, at Namao and Edmonton should have been loaded up with people and aid and all sorts of things.
Yep.
And the sky should have been full. And it wasn't. But yet we can mobilize and write big checks and send money. You talk about, someone had mentioned earlier about Tweedledum being worth $300 million. Well, there was a tremendous amount of rumors or speculation about old Zelensky's wife was shopping for villas in the south of France or something. Apparently he was some failed comedian before he got elected. Now he's worth like $500 million.
Yeah,
right?
That's right.
These things, I don't know if they're true.
Well,
I have no way of knowing. But
it is a well-established fact that the Ukrainian political scene is governed by an oligarchy. It's one of the most corrupt nations on the planet. Like there's a redistribution of wealth, and the mass portion of the population is in abject poverty, right? And then there's these half a dozen families that oversee how things are actually going to happen there, and it's like Italy was really in the 1930s and 1940s, right? It's gross to think about it, right? But I don't know. I think back to, and it wasn't that long ago, and a lot of people have already forgotten about this, but our deputy prime minister going to the Senate and saying, we need to invest give me $2 billion to invest in this green energy company that doesn't actually exist yet, but we've got to get on this. We've got to be quick. But then, when there's a genuine humanitarian need, we send 10 million.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of zeros difference between 10 million and 2 billion. Like that's where we could really make a difference, right? But what is the political advantage to being able to do that? Where does the selfish personal advantage to some of these politicians to be able to do that? Like, and there's a lot of foreign aid that happens as part of, I don't know, just day to day occurrence. You go to the G20 summit and Canada agrees to send this many dollars to in foreign aid to this country, which has no impact on us whatsoever in terms of our quality of life or in terms of our trade agreements or anything like that. We're going to send a bunch of money there. But what is the percentage? And I don't know this number, so it's an honest question. But I'm curious to know, what is the percentage of a Canadian population that actually lives below the poverty line?
Yeah,
and I'm pretty confident that number is larger than I would be comfortable with.
It's certainly larger than it should be.
Yeah,
Right,
and
and
I
I
don't
mean-
think we'd have to go very far. Even if we were to look within our own local municipalities to find how many people had to visit the food bank last week,
Mhm.
right? How many people have to decide whether they're going to heat their home or eat, feed their children or keep them warm, kind of thing. And I question that. Why do we send so much money away that we have there's no accountability for it. There's no perceived benefit for it. And it all at the same time is leaving our own people hungry, starving, without good accommodations, right? We have the housing crisis. We have a major opioid crisis. We have millions of people that don't have access to clean drinking water. Our healthcare system is broken. Our education system is more concerned with pronouns than it is about nouns.
Absolutely.
So, to me, it just we'll be happy if we just. I'm not calling for a revolution. I'm not saying that, but I mean, sometimes you have to wonder how far you'd have to turn something on its head to set it right.
Yeah, well, and I mean, you saw that quite a bit here in the recent years. Like, can we just reset and go back? Like,
Yeah, we always
even-
hope for
even 10, 15 years ago.
we hope for an election's going to come and things are going to turn itself around, but I don't know. Again, that's really painful for us here in Western Canada because we don't really get a say in what happens, right? Because we don't have
No.
the population base to get there,
Mhm.
and we don't see a lot of the whole equalization system that occurs within Canada. We don't see the benefit that comes from the sweat of our brow, so to speak, right?
Mhm.
The social programs that exist within Canada often benefit other people, and we don't get to see how that happens, right?
Mhm.
And when I'm looking at grant funding coming out of Ottawa to fund arts and theater programs in Greater Toronto, I'm thinking like why?
Yeah.
We got kids they're in grade 10 and they can't fucking spell. Like, why are we not funding things that matter?
Yeah, that is a big mystery. And it's funny too. Like you're talking about, there's a big difference in zeros. That guy, he was on TikTok. I seen him yesterday or the day before. He was talking about that stupid art thing in Calgary. It cost him like $450,000.
It's not rebar, it's the I-beam that come. Oh, the circle.
It was a big like circle. And I think it's like street lights on the top. But he
it's
said
a different one. Maybe he covers a couple of them,
but I think he said this thing cost $450,000, and then he said, so the minimum wage is $15. So that's, I think he said 8,000 hours.
Yeah.
Right. Of
you gotta flip a lot of hamburgers.
It's just it's amazing. The other one that I heard that really was, and I might get the numbers wrong, but they were saying like how many days is a million seconds, and I think it's 11 days. But how many days is a billion seconds?
It's like 30 years.
It's 34 years.
34
right?
years.
And you're like, oh, right. And then I think they said a trillion seconds is like 3,000 years or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, these numbers are huge, and I don't know when in history that got distorted, where, like it wasn't that long ago when people thought like a millionaire was something crazy, right? And now it doesn't get you very far in the days of $110,000 trucks and $700,000 houses, and trips are costing $20,000 for holidays and things like that. I mean, this very, very distorted, and I think there's a missed reality where people they're confused by the numbers because it sounds like a lot, but it isn't. And so when you read through a budget and you see things like $76 billion in Alberta, and yet everything is basically crippling infrastructure or crumbling infrastructure, and you think like, well, what does it really cost? Like, shouldn't $70 billion? And I think they come up with a budget, and the UCP is taking all this credit for being so efficient. When I mean, no provincial government in Alberta. I don't care who you vote for. It doesn't matter to me. It gets to take credit for the budget because
don't.
it is what it is. The private sector looks after the Alberta budget,
They do, yeah.
right? Fort McMurray basically looks after the Alberta budget.
Yeah.
What the price of oil is what it is, and the
That's
NDP,
right.
the Greens, the Liberals, the Independents, the Rhinoceros Party, whatever the fuck, they don't. If whoever's sitting
Yeah.
there, you're either lucky or you're not during your time in power.
Yeah. And it's just a matter of how much you're going to waste while you're there.
That's all it is, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty easy to be efficient when you have endless means.
Chad says there's always an angle with our politicians, worried about their friends and what board they can end up on after they retire on a
That's a
huge
big
pension.
point.
Priorities are getting skewed. Yeah.
These pricks that end up in these huge jobs after leaving office should be investigated fairly heavily.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you seen the old Donnie dipshit that took that $1,400 trip from Edmonton to Calgary, the AHS minister or
No.
whatever. Oh fuck! That just recently it was on the news this morning.
What do you mean $1,400 to
Oh,
go
he
from-
rented a car, rented a limo to get himself from Edmonton to Calgary. It was $1,400 the taxpayers scooched out for this driving service. And I was just
I
thinking,
could have
like,
given him a ride.
well, I was just, like this, yet again, this is amazing. This guy not have his own car. I drove to Oklahoma to go to work, and I drove to North Dakota twice.
Probably didn't cost you $1,400 in gas even.
No, and I had to take my own vehicle. There was no, the drilling contractor, the oil company, and then nobody paid for that. So why do these people feel to take, the liberties with taxpayer money all of the time? Like this, and it was
Yeah.
funny because I read somewhere that this, God love her. I think she did a lot of good. Angela Merkel there when she
In
was
Germany.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody asked her, they said, well, what are you wearing? And she was like, I don't know. I'm not a model. And
Yeah.
apparently she lived in an apartment with her husband.
Yeah.
And when she was done leaving the country, she lived a modest life.
She still lived in,
Right.
and one thing that's not often understood about her is, she didn't know what she was wearing because it wasn't brand name stuff, but she only had like 7 or 8 outfits. Like she
Like-
just had a fairly simple wardrobe. None of it was designer.
And she said she
Like-
was a public servant, not a celebrity.
That's right.
And I thought, like,
Yeah.
geez, what kind of,
Yeah.
people like that do exist, and it's just unfortunate that we can't get more of them leading, G7 countries or G20 countries or whatever, and
Yeah.
making really good decisions for the rest of the world. What we end up is like the bottom of the barrel,
With a laughing stock.
the
right?
cesspool of people who
Yeah.
find themselves overly privileged from birth with no. They spend no time job hunting and they spend no time making ends meet, and so they just kind of float around until uncle or daddy or somebody puts them in a position where and then they end up being the leader of a party, and then they end up being the leader of the country with no fucking touch to reality or anything.
There's no depth to them, right?
Zero.
Yeah. Yeah.
And those are the people that end up managing your the wealth of your country, and however they see fit.
Well, and where we're at now, it's not only the wealth of the country, but it's the future wealth of the country for
Mm-hmm.
what is the national debt now? It's like 10 generations. It's gonna, 10 generations. The generation being 25 years, right? So for 250 years, the current status, 250 years of this nation, we're potentially going to be in debt. Like unless I don't know if you're going to find some kind of new, undeveloped, untapped resource beneath our feet that somehow we're going to be able
We
to.
could do like some and just hope inflation looks after it, right?
It's just let's
Owing
just-
$13 trillion in
Let's just-
2023. Maybe by 2300, it won't seem like that much.
yeah,
money.
we'll get rid of the dollar and we'll create a new currency and we'll reset it all and we'll all start back at zero. But
Well, that's burning my fingers. So I made
you think I watched a thing today, and
Am I doing this wrong?
So you're never supposed to snuff your cigar, and the reason for it is that because it creates a very stale and odoriferous scent, right?
Okay.
So I don't care. It's just the shop. That's not the point I'm trying to make.
So you let it burn out.
But because cigars are all 100% natural and organic material, they go out very, very quickly. If you just set it down, it actually won't smoke very much, and it'll just go out. But
Okay.
if you try to stub it out, actually it like it,
Festers and
it puffs up and makes a bunch of stink, right? So, yeah. That was a guy named. Well, I think I talked to him about him last live stream. He runs Atlas and Mason. He's got like a scented candle. He makes. He's got like a style page. He does drinks. He does toasts.
Okay.
All this kind of thing on TikTok or whatever, right? So I don't actually know what he does for a living aside from sell scented candles and fancy aftershaves and stuff. But
I think I know who you're talking about.
yeah, Some
Well,
interesting-
he probably does that now for a living.
well, probably
Influence.
probably just influences. Yeah,
Fair enough.
and that's a dangerous career too, right? Because I don't know how many people are out there going broke just trying to look the part, right? So
Yeah, that's true. Although some of those guys have some fairly good knowledge. They got some fairly good content, so good on them if they can.
yeah,
make a
no,
go
if they
of it.
can make a go of it, that's perfect. Good for them, right? But again, I'm always an advocate for tell the whole story, right? So
Mhm.
good with the bad, right? So 2.5 hours. The cigar is almost well. You're done. I got a
I'm
little bit.
done.
Mine's still burning nice.
Mine was starting to burn my fingers, so
Yeah. You're
I'm pretty much.
you're
done.
half an inch ahead of me there. So
But
what are your thoughts on the whiskey?
it,
You started out disappointed.
No, I was. It didn't have that pop as that Dalmore did, but I mean that Dalmore was like the first 5 we ever drank. So, and we had some rough stuff off the start. So maybe that's why. I mean, we've had a lot of.
yeah.
We've
So
tried a lot of Scotch.
maybe we need to revisit the Dalmore. And
Oh,
just-
we will have to.
because you're right. Like we did have a couple of. I don't know if I would say more flavorful. That's not really. Oh, they were definitely flavorful, but more stronger. I think more dominant flavor profiles in some of the whiskey we tried. Like Glenfiddich is.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's a tire fire.
And
Lafroig is a tire
totally
fire.
different, right? We had Lafroig, which is just strong peat, and then we
Yeah.
had when we got to the Dalmore, that's very sweet sherry cask finish
Yeah.
and things. That Balvenie, that was a good middle of the road. So we've had a lot, and maybe that's why that Dalmore stood out, because it was just one that it was had a flavor of its own. But this is a
It was a very
good Scotch
unique
as well.
flavor. Yeah.
So I was going to check the back of the box again. I wanted to see what it had for a finish. Caramelized orange, rich dark chocolate. I had a sip of that earlier where I could even smell caramel, so I can get that.
Yeah. I never got
As
any chocolate.
As far
but I
as
definitely
rich dark
got,
chocolate, probably not there. I expect the cigar takes away from that quite a bit.
Well, and that could be right. Yeah, maybe we do have to.
So
Maybe I do have to have some meatballs or something with this. I don't know.
well, I know the odd splash of water as you're going through to refresh.
That helps
everything.
cleanse the palate a
Right?
little bit.
Then
Yeah.
you get you get a bit more of a. But I mean, you can't. As far as I'm concerned,
Right,
you can't
I'm
do one without the other. It's just
I'm
too cool.
gonna set it down. Have a splash of water.
So, a 5 still hanging on there. Any last thoughts? There must be at least one of the 5 that hasn't participated yet.
Oh yeah, chances a good steak might help with the scotch. Yeah, we have. I think we had Christmas cake the one day. We brought in
Mhm.
Christmas cake, and you brought some donuts over one time, but I don't. They never made it out of the house.
No.
The wife commandeered those pretty quick.
That was in its infancy when we had to bribe everybody to let us do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
You know, it's funny because, well, I mean, it's no secret. I bought a new suit. I just bought it. I didn't ask permission or nothing like that. I just, well, because I sent you the thing on French
Yeah.
Crown, right?
Yeah.
So French Crown is a economical. I wouldn't say cheap, but they're a very economical
yeah.
brand. They
Well,
make
they seem to be like almost like wholesale outlet.
they're
right?
a wholesale. They own the material. They do all the everything's in house, and they ship directly from their factory in India. So the prices were very, very low, and that's why it kind of piqued my interest. And so I sent that to you, and then I started doing some research on the company and couldn't find a lot. What I found is that there was a lot of people that were really concerned with their return policy. And I thought, yeah. So if I'm not happy with the garment that I buy and I want to return it, they're not gonna take it back, they'll send it back, but they're going to send you something else entirely. They
Okay.
won't replace in kind. So I was like, well, that doesn't really sit very well, right? And I found one gentleman on YouTube who did a group of 3 videos to review the product that they make. And in one of those videos, he like tried on the shirt and ripped the shirt while he was putting it on. So then he had to return the shirt, and then they said, okay, well, go to our website and you can order one of these shirts, not the one you just previously bought and
Mhm.
liked, but you got to buy one of these ones. And they did send it to him, and he was really, really happy. But I was like, well, well, what was the price? They were about $300. I
Yeah,
think, right?
somewhere around there. Yeah.
$300. So I was like, well, that's not a lot of money for a suit, but if you get something that's really low quality, or you don't like it, or there's something wrong with it, and you're left with nothing, suddenly that is a lot of money,
Yeah, that's very true.
right? So I found this one through Alan Dupetit, and the price was actually lower, but there was a lot more information about the company. There was a lot more reviews. They do custom make all their stuff. Everything's in house. They ship it right out of Los Angeles. So I was like, okay, at least we're on the same continent,
Mm-hmm.
And so it showed up in the mail. Brought it home. The wife says, "Oh, what's your new suit for?" Because I just hung it up in the closet, right? What's that new suit for? I'm like, "Oh yeah, no, we're gonna do a YouTube on Friday or whatever." And she wasn't mad or nothing. She didn't. She was, "Oh, let's try it on," and she was actually excited.
Perfect.
So I was like, "Oh,
Winning.
okay, like
Winning.
yeah, we're getting ahead in this game." But I also told her that I was making money on YouTube now because it got monetized finally. I don't think she realized I only made $14, but
Yeah,
halfway to a cigar, I
Yeah.
guess.
exactly. Right. I mean, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
So,
But yeah,
I
$109 for the suit.
well, I was getting
And I-
right serious about it. I was all through that French Crown looking, and I found the part where it shows you how to measure yourself out. So actually, just tonight before I came here, once I put my suit on, I got the wife to help me, and I got all measured up. So now I got my measurements. So I'm gonna go shopping myself
Yeah.
online.
Yeah.
Because
Well, I'm pretty happy with this one. I think I gotta hem the trousers. But other than that, that's really the only alteration I need to make. So
well, that's nice because
You know.
yeah, a suit kind of has to fit.
it has to
It just
fit. Yeah.
doesn't. It doesn't do the same justice.
Yeah. And I think that's why a lot of people they shy away from those types of clothes is because
Mhm.
they don't fit well, they're not comfortable, and to go to a tailor and get one made bespoke is like it's not cheap, right?
No.
It's a lot of money, but I mean, if you wear something that's like 100% wool, like it feels really good, right? If it fits good and the material is comfortable and doesn't break the bank, it actually makes you feel good to wear it.
It
right?
does
So-
absolutely. That's the whole point of it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, most people have some form of nice clothes hanging in their closet that get put on once, twice a year if you're lucky for a wedding or whatever. And it's kind of a shame because it does feel good.
Yeah.
And everybody should have that more often than they do. I mean, if you're lucky enough to have a job where you get to wear a 3-piece suit every day, that would just be cool. But
Yeah. Well, I know I certainly don't. I've
it won't look good on the seat of the tractor.
I've
I can
broken
almost guarantee you that.
out of jeans now. I pretty well. I don't work I work maybe 2 days a month in the field kind of thing.
Mhm.
Maybe 3 or 4 on a good month. So I've moved on to like dress pants and things
Mhm.
like that, and I don't know. It's quite amazing actually how much more comfortable that can actually be. Right, denim. Denim is good if you work in a pretty rough environment, but it's really not actually that comfortable of a fabric. But.
Usually works. What's this?
Oh, begging for forgiveness. Yeah, that definitely works. Yeah. Just show up with it, and then it's not that easy to send it back, right? So
Oh, usually works if you
There's a
have
guy-
cows.
there's
That's
a
funny.
guy I work with, Jeremy. He's got a rodeo stock company that he just bought one day. He just bought a bunch of bucking bulls, and
Oh wow!
I don't know. I don't think his wife was even that mad about it. It's amazing how much stuff a guy can get away with. And then here 2 weeks ago, bought 7 more bucking bulls, and so he's hitting the big time, right? So
Interesting.
yeah,
Bucking bulls.
buck of all the things, yeah,
What people do, eh? It's amazing. You ask them, what do you do? That's what I do.
yeah. But I mean,
Crazy.
it's so interesting, right? Like
Oh, very much.
you know, the different
Very
things
much
that
so.
people do to just fill their time and spend their hard-earned money on, right?
That's one thing I found. Like, so once I started making feed and the people started to, I would always ask them, oh, so what do you do, right? This is obviously a hobby for you. What else do you? It was amazing because growing up in northern Alberta and then climbing on a drilling rig right away, you know. And I had told you that earlier on, like, you know, you were one of the first people that I met that actually worked on a drilling rig.
Yeah,
Like, I kind of just thought everybody did,
yeah.
right? And then once I
But
started
then you
to
get talking to people.
yeah,
and-
started to meet all these people. Like, very few people worked on the drilling rig. Lots of
Yeah.
people work in the oil patch, and then it's amazing too. Lots don't.
no,
They're like,
yeah.
no, I never did.
Well, even
Oh,
you
wow.
go into Grand Prairie and you see a guy with a beard, and you're like, "Fuck, I wonder what that guy does."
Right?
You know, like driving a nice truck, and you know he seems well put together, and he's got a beard, and you're like, "Well, how
How are you getting away with this?
How are you surviving outside of the oil and gas industry?" You know? But,
Yeah, I guess it doesn't.
Yeah.
Being from the Peace Country doesn't mean you work on a drilling rig.
that's right.
I realize that now. I didn't
Yeah.
know that. But there's
Yeah.
a lot of things you can do.
I need to figure out a way to make 150 grand a year out of 40 sheep, and
Yeah,
we'll be
and a
set.
handful of chickens. Yeah.
price
Well,
of, price of eggs is going to have to go up to $90 a dozen, I think. But
Well, it could be coming. I don't know. I seen at the sale there. I think I did some quick math, and they were averaging about $19.50 an animal. So
oh,
where
really?
meat price is going to go with that? I mean, when they were $1,200 an animal, meat in the store was $20 a pound. Now they're close to creeping up on 2,000. I don't know
Yeah.
what Chad saw at the last sale or what when he was loading them out, but someone's going to have to eat that, and I highly doubt the Packers are going to.
Yeah, the Packers won't. Yeah, no,
I
for sure.
expect. I mean, someone was at some. Actually, a lady was picking up chicken feed this morning. She said, "Well, what do you think will happen?" And I said, "Well, they could. I mean, we did a whole live stream on it. There's profit in there that they could eat. They could eat a bunch of that.
Yeah,
They won't though, because
No.
shareholders demand.
it's bad for business.
They
yeah.
they demand continuous growth, which is, I guess, kind of one of the sins of capitalism, where it eats itself because you just keep.
Yeah.
You keep.
But then again, there are those things that the government should. Well, what is the purpose of the government? Is to legislate and regulate, right?
284 for 750. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what
there
I
you
was
go,
seeing. That's
right?
amazing. That's amazing. Good for you. I mean, it does need to be
Yeah.
there for the cow-calf guys for sure,
Yeah.
for the commercial producers.
But maybe
But
that's
who's going to eat it at the end?
well, that's
Right,
what I
when it
say.
was-
Like the government needs to regulate that industry, right? You
Yeah.
need to have like some type of a cap, like a margin cap or something on there that says like you can't, you can't boast these third quarter earnings and rob the farmer and rob the
Right.
consumer and
So we are seeing calf prices get to where they need to be, and what that's going to mean for the next shipment of meat into the grocery store. I expect I didn't think you'd see much more than $73 a kg,
yeah.
but I think next year you're going to see $130
Oh, you're
a
gonna see, you're
kg,
definitely gonna see over 100 for sure.
right? Because it's I don't know who's gonna take it. I mean, the feedlots must be. I mean, I know they work on fairly thin margins, but it's
Yeah,
gonna
well,
get tough.
that's
Grain
kinda
prices are still high.
that's the interesting thing too. Like the feedlots, the commercial side of things, that's heavily commercialized, right?
Mhm.
You put out a really good video the other day about that, like the folks that are farm direct marketing and trying to compete with them, and how close are they becoming to a commercial operation on a small scale
Mhm.
to try and meet those margins, and then trying to sell the story on a product that really doesn't match what
Yeah.
they're actually producing, right? So wild.
Chad gave me a bunch of flack for that video.
What?
I'm gonna drive up and beat him up.
What goes up comes down. When these breeds hit historical highs, herd will be gone, and I'll wait for the next low to buy in again. What's Chad got for? Is it what breed of cows you got, Chad?
I think Chad's a commercial producer. He probably has them all. I don't know. Do you look for a certain breed, Chad, or what? I heard that Brazil was kind of getting ravaged by BSE at the moment.
Oh, is that right?
I just seen on the news this morning that it was Russia closed the border and quite a few countries have shut their doors to Brazilian meat.
Well, that's
So-
only going to drive the price further up,
Right?
So,
So it's going to put everybody else's in more demand.
yeah.
I don't know.
Chad's
Yeah,
got a range,
orange.
mostly Angus
Oh,
cross.
okay.
Oh yeah, black ones or red ones or what? I don't know. I know a few guys with those black ones. I think they're taking their life in their hands. I had a bad experience. This is why I've got sheep and not really any cows, because I remember being, what would I have been? Probably about 8 or 9 years old, and working with my dad to separate cow and a calf, black Angus, and I've never seen a cow that could go through so many fence panels and just so much destruction, right? Like that's what the Canadian military needs, is just a flock of Angus cows, and just put the calves in another country and just turn the cows loose, right? And they'll fuck that shit right up. But so anyways, yeah, this cow goes through, how many gates, and then a whole bunch of panels and stuff, and then we're like, me and my old man, we're like running, like slow motion, like Chariots of Fire running, right? And he gets in on the other side of the gate, and I'm running for the open gate, and the cow is like, I can feel the breath up my back, right? And and I'm just as fast as an 8 or 9 year old kid can run, right? And I get from here to there from the gate, and my old man, the fear in his eyes, he fucking closes the gate. So what do I got to do? I got to scale the fence. And I'm just a kid, right? So a 6-foot fence is a pretty tall order for somebody that's only this big, right? So I hit that, like I jumped and I hit that panel fence about halfway up. And before I could even take the next step, you just feel that boom. And then you hear that cracking, crunching. Like my spleen is not supposed to make that noise kind of feeling. And then you feel gravity, right? As the whole panel fence caves in. And then it's just head and hooves and right going through, and then she's away. And I look over at the old man, and I'm like laying there, like with internal injuries, right? And he's laughing. It's the funniest thing he's ever seen. Like, it's the funniest thing he's seen since he made me touch the electric fence, right? And after that, I was like, I don't know if this cow business is
Wasn't for you, eh?
That's not for me, and certainly not the black ones, right? So
Bulls are black and
yeah,
red.
but prefer the blacks. Yeah. Well, I get it. There's a good reason you got to have black ones. You got to eat them. That's how you're going to methodically remove them from the planet. Is the only way is to eat them. So, but
well, apparently
yeah.
we're raising a demon. I guess the family was over at the in-laws the other day, and I kind of wish I could have seen this, but I guess my little boy was out, and there was a newborn calf, so fairly small. But of course, my boy's only 4, and they said he got in there. And the calf was kind of wily and took a few steps back and started to charge him. And they said he might start running at the calf. I don't exactly know how he
just mess with his head.
But I thought because he hasn't been run over by anything yet. But I watched him this summer with the pigs, and I thought those pigs are like 250, 60 pounds, and you're 4.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is the best idea for you to be in there.
To even be in there, right?
But
yeah.
And then my wife sent me a picture, and the pig was laid down, and he was laid down scratching its belly, and I thought well, maybe he is Dr. Doolittle. I don't know.
Yeah, he could be. He's fruit puddle beyond the marsh, right?
I mean, I don't like putting myself in that situation, so definitely he's going to be one that we're going to have to watch.
I know. Yeah, when our pigs crossed that 200-pound mark, I didn't even want to go in there.
Nope. But it don't bother him. He'll take his ropey rope, and
I saw what they did to that chicken. Like there was, because you're feeding, and the chickens they got free range of the whole farm, and oh look, there's a feeder full of food, and the chicken got in there, and they ate that chicken alive. And I swear to God, if I tripped in that pig pen. My wife would come.
Boots.
My wife would come out, and there'd be a wedding ring stuck in the mud, and that would be it, right?
Pair of boots,
and they would clean house, right? So there was a lot of grain got tossed over the fence the last month there before they got sent to market. So
You guys fix a lamb.
Chad says he did enjoy the sheep business, but the cattle are way less labor intensive. Well, I don't know about that. I mean, maybe for the broader perspective of the year, I know this time of year there's certainly probably not less. We're just about to get into lambing here, and I don't have to help them. I don't have to do it. Like, of course I got to be there, and I have to make sure that they don't get hypothermia and they don't die because it's Tuesday. But like the whole birthing process, I don't have to pull any off or anything like that. I got good size ewes and good size ram, and everything works pretty efficiently for me there. I Jeremy, the guy I work with, I was talking, he's got the rodeo, the bucking bulls there. He put the wrong bull in with his heifers last fall, and they're all head and shoulders, and so now he's dealing with taking losses, unnecessary losses and stuff, and potentially hurting his cows or having to pull these big calves off, right? And fuck, I don't know.
It's a business not for the faint of heart.
So it's a risk, right? So brother-in-law has a couple hundred ewes, so he gets his fix over there. Yeah, well, couple hundred. That's the aim of the game for this guy. I don't know. I need to find another quarter of land to be able to do that, though.
It was the dude, he come by from Valley View the other day and get a tote of molasses. I said, how many sheep do you have? Oh, he said about 600-700. I was just like, I didn't even know there was that many up here.
Yeah.
Let alone one person had that many.
Yeah.
I said, how do you deal with predators? He's actually from Sunset House. He said, yeah, no. He said, we lost about 20 this so far. I said, wow.
Yeah. Well, the folks out at Elmworth there, right? Andrews, Randy Lynn, and
oh yes,
forget what her husband's name is, but they have a couple hundred out there, and yeah, they lose 10 or 15 a year to a cougar or a bear or something, right? And they always got to get Fish and Wildlife in there to come and manage it. Like, yeah, that's one thing. At least with the cows, you don't have as big of a predator impact, right? So
yeah.
I
know there's some people that they live close to that, right, from like the uninhabited area where they have the wolves
too
and
close to
everything
the tree
else
line.
coming in. They struggle a bit more than folks that live where it's very settled.
That's one thing I like about here is they got to cross a lot of open ground to get to dinner, right? So
absolutely,
yeah,
crazy.
Well, what do you think? Should we let the folks go to bed or what?
2:50.
2:52.
Yeah, I think that's probably good. I guess we got some of the topic done.
Yeah, we took a lot of tangents, but that's kind of what we do, right?
It is, yeah.
If anybody's got any ideas, things they want to chat about, things that maybe they heard snippets of this evening or in previous live streams.
Yeah, we're always looking for good ideas.
Chuck us a comment in here or in, I'm sure we'll do a poll here.
Yeah, we'll
right away again, see what folks want to talk about.
I would show that Puppuccino one up there. I got to do that.
Puppuccino. So okay,
I might do a poll where it's just that one 4 times.
When you brought that up, I did not know what a puppuccino was. I had to look up what a puppuccino was, and still, until 2 days ago, had never heard anybody ever use that term aside from yourself. And I met a gentleman. He said, "Yeah, no. Every time my wife's in town, she's got to go to the Starbucks. She's got to get a puppuccino." And he's like, "It's just a fucking cup of whipped cream." And I was like, "Wow!" So they are out there. It's a thing.
It's a cup of whipped cream with a dog biscuit in it.
Huh.
So it's bought for the dog.
Wild. So
that fucking whatever it is, $8.
$8.
I don't know what it is. I shouldn't say it's $8. I have no idea. It might be fucking free. I don't know. But yeah, pretty. If you were ever to ask me if I would ever in my life think that's a good idea, I would.
Even just a cup of whipped cream in the car with your dog is not a good idea, no matter what the cost.
And I'm the kind of an individual I wouldn't put my fucking dog in the car. So
yeah, I probably wouldn't feed whipped cream to my dog either, because
it's just amazing, right?
I don't really want to buy metformin for my dog.
But like you say, maybe folks don't quite understand the whole statement there.
Yeah,
because I mean, I could go around on stupid shit that I've seen people buy, do, like all day long and think like
Yeah.
you realize, and this is funny too. I was talking about this on somebody there. They stopped for some feed last night. And he had a box of beer, so we sat there and I was thinking, there's so much hypocrisy all over the place where people are fucking. They carry on and they talk out of one side of their mouth where they're totally, just the ability to have the train of thought they have doesn't exist in like 98% of the fucking planet.
Yeah.
But yet they're so passionate about being the victim of something, and you think like, where else can you roll around with the nonsense we see plastered all over flags and fucking people's vehicles, buying puppuccinos, and then turn around and pretend you're oppressed.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And I mean, this is certainly I'll end it here because it'll be a topic for a whole nother thing. But I can't wrap my head around it.
How good you don't know you have it.
Exactly. That's exactly it. Right now, it's probably going to be in the poll, right?
Yeah.
Fucking stupidity at its finest. How good you don't know you have it. It's just amazing, and then certainly everybody's entitled to their opinions, and
well, they are entitled,
but
that's for sure.
it's just it's amazing how you could, you don't. This doesn't add up. What you're saying doesn't add up to what you're trying to explain.
Yeah,
and I don't get it. But
it's skewed reality, right?
It really is. It really is.
Yeah. Well, if you're not a victim, or you're not unique, or you're not special, seems you're nobody now.
And that's exactly it, right? I mean, maybe
Yeah.
we've peaked it as society, so the only way to be impressive is to be oppressed and a victim,
Yeah,
right? I mean, everybody, whatever.
that could be it.
So,
I guess at that, the last one we used to lamb Civ 400 and fed out
A few thousand. Oh man,
wow.
there's a lot of buckets of grain to pack for that. I think you'd want to automate that process. That's for sure. Yeah. Even the wife went over the other day. She's over there trying to feed the ewes, giving them quite a bit more grain now because they're just about to start lambing, right? And she's like dumps the bucket of grain and she's just whoom. She can't move, right? Can't go forward, can't go backwards, can't go sideways. She's just in a sea of wool and just I gotta wait for them to eat and then I can move, right? So, yeah, funny anyways. So, all right. Well, we should let the folks go. Thanks for joining us.
Sounds good, absolutely.
Been a wonderful evening. The whiskey was good. The cigar was great. Appreciate everybody's
You bet.
coming in, dropping some comments, and
Absolutely. Stay tuned. I'll throw a poll up there in the next few days. Enter some names in here, and it doesn't look like there was actually anybody new. I think everybody that jumped in tonight had already won something, so I'll have to see. I have a list of who's won, so
might have to do
might only be one name on the wheel or something. I don't know.
What
I'll have to
Yeah.
do a re.
might have an acclamation winner. You never know. So,
Never know.
alrighty. Well, thanks, folks. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, mighty fine. Mighty fine.